Well, welcome in everybody. I have a special guest today, actually. Look, this is a new format for me. As you guys all know, I do live streams from time to time after games, typically during the postseason. But by and large, my videos on this channel are generally solo ones. But I made a connection in New York doing my recent House of Highlights debate. Of course, you guys know I did a Kobe one a few months ago. This young gentleman, Connor Hebbeler, was one of the 10 guys debating against me in that House of Highlights. And then I went back for another LeBron James kind of Michael Jordan-centered one, which will be coming out in a couple weeks or month. And he was in that one as well. He was the only guy that was in both the Kobe one and the Jordan LeBron one. And we got to talking afterwards, connected with each other. And we decided to just hash this whole conversation out. Forget about clocks, shot clocks, long, like quick, like people cutting each other off. We're going to just have the conversation. A young buck, a young gun who has grown up in the LeBron era, who loves LeBron, and an old head like myself. As you can see, he's got the chosen one. As you can see, I've got the Kobe's behind me, of course. So an old head versus a young gun. We're going to have the conversation. Before we get underway, though, again, Connor Hebbeler, welcome to the show. Hero Ball Media is the handle, the YouTube channel. Hero Ball Media. Get over to his stuff. Give it a watch, like, subscribe, etc., etc.
Yes,
Connor,
sir.
before we get underway, tell us a little something about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm from New Jersey. As I told you the other day, I played college football at Wake Forest, had a brief time at Rutgers as well. I'm a basketball guy, but I really just like talking about LeBron James. He's been my guy since I'm 8 years old, since he's taken the Wizards, dropping 2-game winners in his first playoff series. They try to say he's not clutch. I'm sure we'll get into that soon. But again, I do a lot, mostly football, mostly MMA talk right now, a little bit of basketball as well. And, you know, I've been following this guy, Skap. I took out LeBron's biggest hater in Skip Bayless not so long ago. And now they sent me in. A lot of the comments said, you got to go dance with Skap, see what happens. And here we are. I'll take out his two biggest haters and we'll see where that leaves me, you know?
And again, you guys got to check it out. Hero Ball Media. I actually saw he has it posted, his head-to-head against Skip Bayless. It is very impressive. it honestly, Skip Bayless, when the third or fourth time Connor goes up and Skip Bayless is sitting there, he looks like LeBron looked like when Kawhi checked in that series in 2014. So I was like, I got to bring this guy on my platform. We got to have the conversation.
Let's go.
So definitely check it out. Connor, now, also, I typically don't like to ask because I'm old. So typically, I don't like to talk age because I'm old, even though I look good. I know I do. You don't have to tell me.
You don't look a day over 46.
But I'm going to ask you to disclose I'm guessing you're like early to mid 20s, right? Am I right?
27, actually. 27. Okay. I look great for the skincare, right?
It's looking 27. Good. Yeah, you look great as well.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So 27. So you were born basically like 99, 2000-ish?
99, yeah.
Okay. So when Kobe won his first title, you were just, in fact, born.
Yeah, so when Kobe was on that team when Shaq led the late, yeah. So I obviously wasn't following too strong, and then again, once I found out who this LeBron James character is, dropping 48 in Detroit, I was like, all right, this basketball, again, I'm a football guy, even at 5 years of age, but now I gotta venture into basketball as well and follow this guy. And who would have thought, 20 years later, 2 decades later, we're still talking about the greatness of this man.
I hear you. So look, as I said, you're young. I'm 40. I'm 42. So there's a 15-year gap. So we're talking like I grew up during not really even the Michael Jordan era. Like I watched the last three-peat. But I was young. I was like 10 years old when he was in the last. So I really truly grew up in the Kobe era, like the late that's when I really started watching and becoming a huge fan.
What was the Kobe era? What are you referring to as the Kobe era?
Well, to me, the Kobe era is, look, he was drafted in 96.
Yeah.
He was on the bench for the first year and really the second year, honestly, too. So I would say when they won their first championship in 99, 2000, I would say that like 2000 to when he ruptured his Achilles in like 2012, 2013, that to me was like the Kobe era. So that was, to me, the years I grew up, and kind of my formal years of basketball education and stuff started in that span. So I basically I've seen every playoff game Kobe Bryant ever played in. Can't say that about Michael Jordan. And I've seen every playoff game LeBron James has ever played in his entire career as well. So I think
you were a huge fan of Kobe, like from the jump.
Exactly. So his McDonald's High School All-American year. So the McDonald's High School All-American game, traveling All-Star game for like the 24 best high school players in the United States, right? Mm-hmm. So Kobe, the year that he was a senior, the McDonald's High School All-American game was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that's where I was born and raised. Wow. So I was whatever, 10 years old when he played in that game. And I said, look, that guy right there is the next Jordan. So as a Jordan guy at the time, I was like, wherever he goes, wherever he lands will become that's my team now. And that's my favorite player moving forward. I love that's how the love affair began between me and the late, great Black Mamba. But my interest is this. And look, we can get into some debates, obviously, and yell at each other. We can do some of that for sure.
Please.
But first, though, just so we can understand, help me understand, because I don't have this opportunity to sit down with a young gun like yourself who thinks, now let's get one thing straight. You've got LeBron number one all time. He's your go.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously. Okay. Right.
So I want you to walk me through, my older head audience, if you will. Yeah. Walk me through the psyche of a young buck who sees LeBron James, grew up basically in the LeBron era, and why you think, what your rationale is as to why LeBron James is your GOAT.
Yeah, so again, how much time do you have, right? Why is LeBron the GOAT? But I'll start with this. So in 2009, when they lost to the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals after going 66-16, they had the best record in basketball. He won MVP. I believe he was 23 that year. So I was a huge LeBron guy from the jump. Like that year, when I 8, 9 years old, all I wanted for my birthday was that Cleveland, the kind of like the one I have up there, but that checkered jersey. It was beautiful. One of the best jerseys ever. I was obsessed with the guy. I'm still obsessed with the guy. And when they played the Magic in that series, he played some of the highest level basketball that we've ever seen. He averaged 38, 8, and 8. He was unstoppable. We know the game winner, one of the best moments of his career in Game 2. After they lost in 6, I was mad, obviously, but I was in awe of what I had just seen. And as someone who's always been a loud LeBron fan, I came into school the next day, I'm in 4th grade, and people were making fun of me that the Cavaliers had lost and that we were supposed to see LeBron versus Kobe. That's what it was all gearing up toward. And I was like, yeah, but he played amazing. Did you guys not see it? His team stinks. He was a one-man show out there. And people were like, so what? He lost. It doesn't matter. And I feel like that's kind of set the groundwork for LeBron's career in these bizarre arguments we end up in when it is a team sport and we're having these individual arguments where all we gear back to is how the team did. It's never made sense to me, but I remember that so clearly of arguing with these kids, these other 9-year-olds who were like, haha, the Cavaliers lost. I was like, dude, the guy averaged a 40-point triple-double. What did you want him to do? So obviously he's the greatest young player of all time. And now as of recently, he's the greatest old player of all time. All that happened in between was like an 18-year, what, who, what, we could get into that in a second. But all we saw in between was unbelievable moment after unbelievable moment. And I don't envy you, Skap, because another thing I want to get into, we've watched LeBron through the microscope of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, we allowed him to be Jordan. They were already calling him the GOAT in like year 4 and 5. LeBron James, go watch him in high school. When he's 17, they go Michael, Magic, Kareem, LeBron when they were playing in Akron because they weren't able to hold enough people in their gym. The guy is the epitome of the social media and internet era, which if Jordan grew up in or played in, we would view him much differently. So I think we haven't allowed guys like you haven't, I don't envy you because it's been one of the greatest joys of my life. My entire life has been watching LeBron James play basketball. And for some reason, these people like you and Skip Bayless choose not to enjoy it. And it's very strange to me. Sorry for my monologue there, but
no,
you got me.
That's why we're doing it, Connor, because you're in the context of what we did against each other in House of Highlights. Like it's abbreviated. It's, there's a time element. People are like, they're rushing different things. And I'd like to have longer conversations,
You and me both. And
like to
that
get
brings
to your
out a
heart.
bad side of me. I think it was AI. Apparently, they're saying I tackled someone to get up there. I don't believe that actually happened. You know, technology is crazy these days. But again, it's better. But no one gets to get tackled here. Oh, we'll see how it goes, I guess. But no tackling for now.
Exactly. Now, look, I do have to admit, Connor, the guy is elite when you look at standard box score, the counting box accrual of stats, all-time leader in scoring, top 3 in assists, obviously. Even his advanced analytics, very impressive. Top 3 or 4 in most of the important advanced categories. Player efficiency rating, value over replacement, box plus minus, win share per 48 minutes. He's most of these categories and metrics would put him top 5 for sure. But would you admit, even being a guy that is a huge LeBron proponent, would you admit that there are other standards that we hold players to? Now, I heard you say that the age-old, it's a team sport. But would you admit that winning and success in the postseason would have to be counted for or against players in their all-time resumes and when we're determining who the greatest players are of all time?
1,000,000%. Absolutely. That's why, again, I'm happy to have this discussion with you, because even some of the cats that we saw get up last week, like they're like, tell me Jordan's the GOAT without using 6 and 6. It's like, all right, obviously that doesn't come down to, there are some people on the internet who say 6 and 0 versus 4 and 6. Obviously it goes much, much deeper than that. But yes, team success, winning championships, when you come into the gym on the first day of practice, that's what it's all gearing up to. So obviously how you can contribute. Now, again, it can't just be broken up, because you also have people talk about Robert Horry and maybe Bill Russell, which I don't really want to get into, but maybe we'll get into. If you bring up Robert Horry in this debate, your opinions are invalid. You don't have a seat at the table if you're talking about Robert Horry. But yes, to answer your question, yes, it is all about winning championships. Absolutely.
Because let me throw this guy in the mix, because this is a modern era guy and we can both kind of talk to him. Nikola Jokic over the last 6 seasons has been stupefying. He's averaged a triple-double now 2 years in a row, nearly 30 points per game both years. Insane efficiency. He was like
assists and rebounds. Has that ever happened before?
Connor, I'm glad you asked. Not only has it never happened in one season, no human being in organized professional basketball history has ever done it in a career. So not like 1 year you let in rebounds and like 7 years later you let in assists. It's never been done. He did it in the same season while dropping 28 per game on like league best of it. He's like top 5 in true shooting. So I'm wondering where you might rank Nikola Jokic, because he's been in the league he's 11 years in, he's 31 years old. Where do you think Nikola Jokic ranks all time right now?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So I'm kind of going to step on my foot here, and maybe we could just fast forward to screaming at each other, because this stuff I have very interesting opinions on. I think this talk of legacy is a word that some moron came up with while the men in the arena, make $50 million a year to accomplish their dreams. We're talking about Jokic while he's on a ranch somewhere doing who knows what. He doesn't really care what you and I think of him, right? So I think this legacy talk, this Stephen A. Smith and Skip Baylessification of sports media, has been a very negative thing. Now, I say that as someone who really wants to talk about sports for a living, but when we talk about legacy of these guys, so Jokic was this guy a couple years ago when this run started. All we said was, imagine if this guy wins a ring with the stats he's putting up. That's going to be one of the most meaningful rings ever. What does he do then? He wins a ring. Now it's like, are we able to put Jokic? Is he a top 10 player of all time? Recently, you've seen takes, is he the best offensive player of all time? People can just come on a podcast and say that. And then he played pretty poorly in the playoffs this year. And by poorly, that was 24, 12, and 9 or something. So like poorly, not crazy poorly. And now it's like, wait, maybe he's not that good. Is he a big playoff choker? They lost in 7 to OKC last year, even though he dropped 40 twice in 7 games. But now you look and you're like, wow, maybe he is a playoff choker. Maybe his legacy isn't that great. And then guess what? He's like 30, and his play style is going to allow him to play like this for years to come. So we're having all this talk about Jokic's legacy this offseason. What if he goes around and wins a ring next year? Now it's like, wait, he definitely is top 10. And then he'd still have enough time to piss down his leg and ruin his legacy once again. So I think legacy, while these guys are in their career, is a very odd conversation. But to answer your question, I have a very hard time comparing Nikola Jokic to these guys who came along. How does he compare to Larry Bird? I don't really know how he compares to Larry Bird. How does he compare to Bill Russell? I don't think Bill Russell has a seat at this table, but we could get into that. I think Nikola Jokic, and it's very hard to compare these guys that deep in eras. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't been amazing in the playoffs, but I don't think that devalues everything that he's done. Jamal Murray's missed so much time. Aaron Gordon has missed so much time. So I think, again, context always matters. How do you view Nikola Jokic? Because I'm just freaking talking. I'm sorry.
So I agree. Context matters. And a big issue, I have to say, I fundamentally have had to revise or reimagine some of my takes based on Jokic. And I think that it is the ring conversation and the ring counting is a bit unfair for some guys, I think. And that's why it's hard for me to apply. I think you have to look deeper into the context of LeBron, and we'll get into him and what he did. But like when I look at some of, like, for me, Akeem Olajuwon's in my top 5 all time. He only has 2 rings.
I love it. Hakeem's the most underrated out of all these guys, in my opinion. Sorry.
Terrific. I think he's the second best offensive big ever, maybe to Jokic, and the second best defensive big ever, maybe to Bill Russell. But he's in the talks where he might be the most complete full court big in NBA history.
Absolutely.
But the guy legitimately just didn't have a lot of help, though, Connor. Like, he had Ralph Sampson early in his career, and then he didn't play with another all-star till he was like 30. When they traded for Clyde Drexler at the deadline in the second championship run he had. So, like, to me, I look at a guy like Akeem Olajuwon and I say to myself, like, only 2 rings. Yeah, Kareem had 6. Shaq had 4. But Kareem won 5 with Magic Johnson, 1 with Oscar Robertson. So 2 top 12 to 13 players all time. Yeah. Shaq won 3 with Kobe, 1 with Dwayne Wade in his prime. Like 2 of the best 2s of all time, probably 2 of the 4 best 2 guards ever. Yeah. Like, what if Akeem Olajuwon played 7, 8, 9 years with guards like that? How many championships would he have? A hell of a lot more than 2.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
And like, I look at Jokic as the same way. Like, he has played with his first all-star ever now in year 11. He's never played with a single all-star until Jamal Murray this season, and Murray completely shit himself in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's awful.
35% shooting in that Minnesota Timberwolves series. Just a laughable performance by him. And you said Jokic, he did. He played, by his standards, played a bad series. 26 points per game, 13 rebounds, 9.5 assists on 45% shooting. Was like a bad series for him.
Against Rudy Gobert, who's one of the best, interior defenders of this era, whatever you want to say about him. But that's who he was doing up against. And we're calling that terrible? I don't know.
Exactly. So I sit back and I look and I say, Nikola Jokic is the context of his career individually, one of maybe the best 6-year runs ever. His advanced numbers are off the charts. Like, Jordan, LeBron, and Jokic are the only guys that have led the league for 5+ years in a row in PER, BPM, for all those crazy analytics. Yeah. Like, so Jokic is in that mix. He's now finished top 2 in MVP votes 6 years in a row, which tied the all-time record with Larry Bird and Russell. And his win shares per season play, Connor, is second all-time behind only Jordan, above LeBron. So, like, he's in that context now from an individual standpoint, but no one's going to put him there because of the ring count, because he's never going to have more than maybe 2. Like, he'll be lucky to get 1 more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So now I've had to sit back and look and say to myself, have I been unfair to LeBron for counting rings against him when I see some of these all-time great players that are being, impugned now from an all-time legacy standpoint because they don't have the amount of rings necessary to put them in those conversations?
Yeah.
This is where I say it's not unfair, though, and I want your take on it. Because there's levels to what LeBron did. Like, if I could go back in a time machine and say, Jokic at 25, 26, get the hell out of Denver and go get it on a different team, I would love to have done that. Mm-hmm. So I don't criticize LeBron James in the least for leaving Cleveland. He was there for 7 years. Yeah. He was an MVP 2 times. He took the team, I thought, as far as it could go, realistically. Go ahead and leave and get more help. But Connor, the amount of help he got, the place he went. Come on, do you not see the problem with going to join the best guy in his conference, the third best player in the league at that time, and then recruiting another perennial all-star averaging like 24 and 11?
Yeah, I understand like the heat, no pun intended, that he got for that move, right? And I understand all the baggage that came with that. But as we spoke about the other day, Dwayne Wade went through some serious injuries during that time, right? And the Dwayne Wade that he joined in 2010, like coming off that great season, and the Dwayne Wade that he was in like the second, third year, like by 2013, we've spoken about it, right? During that finals run, he was not Dwayne Wade. Like he still wore the same jersey. That was not the same guy. Chris Bosh was having like 10-point games, right? Chris Bosh was having games where he played 30 minutes in a double over or in an overtime game, right? That was not the same two guys that he joined. And then 2 years after that, Chris Bosh wasn't even really playing anymore, right? So I understand the heat that he got for it, but you have to understand how much the league has changed. And when we watch basketball right now, like look at the Thunder, look at LeBron maybe started this like, all right, these big threes or like these superstar duos. Now, in my opinion, the NBA is all about like 3 or 4 through 7, right? Like, can you have those guys? There's maybe a guy off the bench who averages 12 or 13, but he could give you a 25-point game. Like we're seeing that like a Bridges and Anunoby step up and how much that's helping the Knicks. And obviously we see a different guy do it every day for OKC. And that's why, you and I like to hate on Shea. But I think like you look at the teams that he was going against, like the Celtics, like how good that team was with their big three. And then maybe LeBron just did it a little better. And I feel very strongly, I think you gave LeBron some, I can't keep saying heat, but you slandered LeBron for leaving Miami after those 4 years. I kind of know LeBron kind of regretted that decision. And he went and he got his hardware. He didn't get as many as he promised. And he was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to go make this right. And I'm going to go back to Cleveland. So I think he kind of regretted that move going to Miami. And if you want to hate on him for it, absolutely hate on him for it. He joined Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, who were 2 top 10, 15 players in the league right now, however you would rate Bosh at that time. So yeah, you can hate on him all you want for that. But I think that he's more than, made up for it, in my opinion.
So see, and this is part of, and I it's interesting you use made up for, because I agree. 23rd, the last run, Wade was in decline, obviously, which I think factored in to LeBron wanting to get out of Miami and
Absolutely.
go get younger pieces in Cleveland.
Yeah.
But Wade was still Wade. Like the 2 years before the join up, Wade finished 3rd in league MVP, 5th in league MVP.
Yeah.
He was 1st team NBA both years. He was all NBA defense both years. I think 1st and 2nd team.
Yeah.
And I mean, the dude was dropping crazy numbers. I think, quite frankly, that Dwayne Wade's finals run with Shaq in 06, 07 was actually one of the best finals runs, the finals performances specifically, that final that I've ever seen.
100%. What do you have? 36, 37, something insane. That's one of the best runs of all time. And he's 23 at the time. Like, it's unbelievable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was still that D Wade when LeBron, the first year that LeBron joined with Bosh, who was coming off of a 24 and 11 year in his own right when he came in to Miami.
Fourth in PER too, I believe. A lot of people like that stat.
4th in PER and top 20 in the other big 3 ones, win share, VORP, and
he was top 12, 15, whatever you want to.
Right. So to put those guys together and then to fail the way he did in the 2011, I know LeBron guys can't even defend the 2011, but it's interesting you use the word make up, because I think LeBron needed to do a lot of making up following that 2011 loss, because one of the worst losses, one of the worst, in fact, for the all-time great upper echelon players, got to be, to me, the worst loss I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would say the worst by far. So the way when I do this debate, I really like to have someone who has LeBron and Jordan 1 and 2, right? I think if you have Jordan at 1 and LeBron at 2, I think that's fine. I'm kind of breaking character here because I say it's not fine. But yeah, if you think Jordan's the best, and honestly, if you say it's so close, but I can't get over 2011, the worst superstar collapse of all time, and you want to say that's a top 3 to 5 player of all time after that, the fourth quarters, we know all the stats. I don't even want to hear them. I think that's a fine take. There kind of is no coming back from that. All that he did was have one of the greatest 8-year stretches, which kind of did make up for it. And then he had one of the most meaningful rings in the history of organized sports. So I think he made up for it. But if you say he was too bad in 2011, you had Dwayne Wade, who I was just saying, had really declined 2 years later. And that's finals. He was averaging like 27, 28 a game. If LeBron had a pulse, they win. And then who knows if they win that finals with LeBron playing terrible. I mean, who knows what that does for his legacy, but he was awful in that finals. And if you think that is irredeemable, I think that's fine. Now you have some people like the guy I'm talking to who says now LeBron's like the 9th best player ever. And it's like, well, there has to be some middle ground there. Even if it is, even if he retired after 2011, I'm not sure he's the 9th best player ever. But again, I think, that's my answer to it. If you think 2011, there's no coming back from it. Yeah, I think that's a fine take, honestly.
So let's get into the Kobe, because I have Kobe above LeBron. I think, like I said, I watched Kobe his whole career.
Yeah.
I've watched every playoff game he's ever played. I've watched every playoff game LeBron ever played in.
And you must have seen some things that I haven't seen, because this is an interesting take. You're saying that you think Kobe is better at like basketball, or are we talking about his movie making career? Which, I mean, I'm not sure he has LeBron in that department either, but explain, because I do feel like if we're talking LeBron Jordan, the ball is in my hands to make the points. I feel like at this point, if you're arguing for Kobe over LeBron, you might have to explain to me why, which I think you were doing before I interrupted you. I apologize.
No worries. And I think ultimately in football, baseball, and hockey, I think that rings and winning are a little too exaggerated at times, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even though, I think you're a football guy. I think Tom Brady is easily the GOAT quarterback.
Yeah, by far.
By far. And that's even with the fact, and people most prominently put Joe Montana number 2. Maybe Patrick Mahomes is coming up now to get in that conversation.
Sure.
But look, Peyton Manning has more all-pro, first-team all-pros, and as many league MVPs than Tom Brady and Joe Montana combined.
Crazy.
But in the times that it really matters, in the playoff moments, that's when Tom Brady and Joe Montana distance themselves. And that was in a sport in football where even the quarterback plays only half the game, has a line that they're accountable for, right? Receivers that have to execute the plays as well. In the NBA, though, uniquely to me, basketball is a sport that really leans itself to the individual player to be in most control of their destiny than any other sport, any other all-time great in other sports.
Yeah, very well said. I agree with that 100%. And it's funny mentioning Brady. I was a Brady hater for a while, and I was arguing that Manning was better for a lot of their careers. But it just got so cartoonishly outrageous with what Brady ended up doing. Kind of reminds you of anyone like in the later stages of his career. The guy leading the National Football League in passing yards and touchdowns at 43 years of age. That's never been done before. It'll never be done again. So I feel like they were super close despite the rings. And then again, he just got blown. Like for him to find that second or really third prime that he went into in his late, because he kind of improved. He might have been playing the best football he ever played in the Tampa Bay years. I even say it's outrageous, right? He could still play today. I don't know if you saw him playing in Saudi Arabia a couple weeks ago or wherever that was. The guy's still lighting it up. So, but I think that was very well said by you, because again, people maybe put too much emphasis. I hear people talk about how much the Mike Evans ring, is that going to help him get in the Hall of Fame? The guy's a receiver. Like Megatron is like one of the greatest of all time. Did the guy win a playoff game? Like we put way too much emphasis on rings in football. I agree. But in basketball, it's fair game, right? Because it is a very, catered to the individual sport in a way that football isn't. So I agree with you 100% on that. Maybe I'll eat my words in a couple seconds when you explain why you feel that way, but
right. The reason I think that is because, and then therefore the reason as a prelude, I put that in as a qualifier is because I think rings are a big differentiator when we're talking about legacies.
100%. Yeah.
It's fair that context goes into it. And that's why I say like Hakeem can make my top 10. in my top 5, even with only 2. And he can go above guys like Magic Johnson that has 5, because there's context that needs to be sprinkled in terms of the competition they played, the kind of people they had, the supporting cast that were helping them get those rings. So when I look at Kobe Bryant and the reason why I have him, Connor, are you ready for this? The number 2 all-time greatest player in NBA history, behind only Michael Jeffrey Jordan, is because Kobe played the hardest competition of any player in league history. He had relatively not a lot of help. His supporting cast was not good. And I know you're going to bring up Shaq, and the fact that you were born in 2000, I'm ready to hear that, Shaq.
Let's go.
Context coming from you, of course. And then he still won 5 championships in spite of all of it. The difficult competition, the lack of supporting cast, and he blew his Achilles out at 34. So in his 17th year, essentially, he ended his career unofficially ended. And he still found the way to get to 5 ridiculous rings. And the last 2 of the best rings in NBA history. So for those reasons, I uplift the guy who is a top 3 all-time scorer in league history, who is the most decorated defensive player in league history outside of Tim Duncan. Okay. And he's got the 5 rings. For those reasons, I slapped the Black Mamba, who's sitting over my shoulder right now, as the number 2 greatest player of all time, and above your man, LeBron James. What say you, Connor? Come on.
Yeah, so let's get in. First and foremost, I love Kobe Bryant, and I really hate having this conversation now, right? I think it's easier to slander someone when they, are still alive, right? What a tragedy. I love Kobe Bryant, and that's why, again, I hate slandering these guys in general, but especially someone who's no longer with us. So I do hate having this conversation, but I will say, as weird as it sounds, this conversation did look a little different before he so unfortunately passed away in 2020, because it's almost not right to hate on someone after they're deceased, right? So I feel like people now will just say something like as outrageous as he's the 2nd greatest player in the history of the NBA. And it's like people don't really push back. You see on ESPN, some will say like, are we sure that he wasn't better than Jordan? And people are like, it's not ridiculous to say that. It's like, well, it is ridiculous to say that, as much of a tragedy as it is. But I got a couple questions for you, because you said those were 2 of the most impressive rings in history. One thing that I was just thinking about this, what are like the big Kobe moments? Because there are so many, and I'm not saying he doesn't have any. I'm not saying that. But when you look at LeBron, right, we have the 48 bomb, 29 out of 30, 25 points in a row, all 18 points in the first and the second overtime period. Yes, you heard me right. He hit about 4 would-be game-winning or tying shots in the fourth quarter and 2 overtimes. It's the greatest clutch performance of all time. He did it at 22 years old. You have 2013. You have the 30-point triple-double, 16 points in the fourth quarter to win in game 6, and then they go on in game 7, and he drops 37 and he hits the game winner. People don't even remember that game 7. He had 37 points and he hit the game winner. And we'll talk about that game 6, because Dwayne Wade, who was 3rd in PER the year before, he was not playing in the fourth quarter. Chris Bosh, who was 4th in PER, he was not really playing in the fourth quarter. So that's a huge moment for LeBron James. And then we don't even have to get into 2016, 2018, some of the greatest basketball we've ever seen. I think LeBron James has multiple big, crazy moments that Kobe kind of just doesn't, So I know Kobe does have great moments. That's why he's one of the greatest of all time. I'm not disputing that. But to put him at the same table as LeBron Ramon James is just, it's blasphemy, to quote my brother, Stephen A.
Well, I mean, look, Kobe started, Connor, from a very young age. Again, you were, I think in 2000, you were like maybe just a young infant. Yeah, right. So look, Kobe led the NBA. That's a year, by the way, his worst playoff run. Kobe's worst playoff run in 2000 when he was only 21 years old. That people will say he was, of course, carried by Shaq. In that year, Kobe was 2nd team All-NBA, 1st team All-NBA defense, and he led the NBA playoffs in fourth quarter scoring, and he led the entire NBA playoffs, all teams, not just his own team, the LA Lakers, in clutch scoring. And that was magnified in the game 4 of the 2000 NBA Finals when they're playing a seasoned veteran Indiana Pacers team, right? And it's a 2-1 series for the Lakers. Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant go into overtime. Shaq fouls out instantly with like 4 minutes to go in the overtime session. And at that point, the Lakers look like they're dead in the water. Probably it's going to be a 2-2 series. 2-2 series is a dogfight then, best of 3 with a veteran team, Reggie Miller and those guys that took Jordan's 7 in the 98 Eastern Conference Finals. So that's anybody's series at that point. But young 21-year-old Kobe, 21, Connor, on the NBA Finals stage with Shaq fouled out, goes on to hit 3 consecutive clutch-ass baskets down the stretch in overtime. He does the calm down, guys, as he's running back. And it's 3-1 then, all of a sudden, Lakers. And it's a wrap. And they go on and win the NBA championship. And then they win 2 more championships in a row. Connor, there has only been one other three-peat, well, technically 2 three-peats in the modern era, okay? Since 1970, there has been 3 three-peats ever. Jordan did it twice. Kobe and Shaq then did it that one time. And while Kobe was maybe carried in that 2001 to you or to others maybe, in 2001 and 2002, he was as good as anybody has ever been in a postseason run. So I think it's
as good as anyone's ever been.
As good as anybody's ever been, Connor. In 2001 and 02, ones where he got carried in, mind you.
Okay, so I actually just came across this stat recently. So we're talking about the comparison. We were talking about Bosh and Wade earlier. Now we're talking about Shaq. Shaq averaged more during those 3 finals runs, more points and rebounds, and 1 less assist than Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh combined during their last 3 finals runs. So again, 2011 was terrible, right? D-Wade, they probably both outplayed him. LeBron might have been the 7th best player on the floor. The last 3 final runs, he had more points and rebounds. He averaged 38 and 15 over the course of 3 finals. So you're talking about that Kobe Bryant, that was the best finals run ever. It wasn't even the best finals run on his team. So that's an outrageous thing to say. And we can find a million clips of every team talking about how Shaq is the most unstoppable force they've ever seen, talking about their defensive strategy on Shaq. So Kobe got his because he's one of the 10 best players of all time, playing at an extremely high level. But if we're going to act like these teams did not need to stop Shaq and they didn't know how to stop Shaq. So yeah, on paper, Shaq only averaged 1 more point over the course of the playoff runs or whatever it might be. It might be less than a point. You'll probably have it for me. But to act like they were on the same level is crazy, man. It's crazy. That's just not true. 38 points over the course of 3 finals runs.
And now not the whole playoff runs, Carl, the NBA final series specifically.
Right. Yes, sorry. Because over the course of the playoffs, I think they averaged the same, which, I mean, okay, great.
And it's because, Carl, this is why. The East was poop in those years. The East had nothing to throw against Shaquille O'Neal. Obviously, and they crushed the East series out. They beat the Pacers 4-2, they beat the Sixers 4-1, and they beat the Nets 4-0. So, like, there were no match. The real strength. And look, I think it's a mistake to overlook the Knicks this year. But what a lot of people are saying right now about the Thunder and Spurs are playing the real NBA Finals, and the team that wins that is going to win it all. That was magnified even more back in the early 2000s. The West was insane. Like
Spurs,
There's been 5 teams in NBA history that have played a 50-win opponent in all 4 rounds of a playoff run. Only 5 teams. Hakeem Olajuwon did it in 95. Luka Doncic did it in like 2024, I think it was. He ultimately lost in the finals to the Celtics, but he became one of the 5 teams. And then the other teams to do it was Kobe Bryant in 01, Kobe Bryant in 09, and Kobe Bryant in 08, and Kobe Bryant in 2010. So they played ridiculous opponents in the West back even in the early 2000s. And in fact, the 2001 run, Connor, was the 2nd hardest run in league history when you look at the opposition's defense and their relative strength and SRS of opponents that they faced on that span of time. And in that run, they went 15-1, and Kobe Bryant averaged 29 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. The 29 points are more than then 3 of LeBron James's 4 playoff runs that he won a championship in ultimately. So Kobe, as a 22-year-old in 2001, getting carried by Shaquille O'Neal,
No one's saying he's carried. No one's saying I'm not doing the carry job. I'm not saying that. One can be better without carrying.
Okay, but all I'm saying, in the West, if you go back and look at like the Spurs, who had a dynastic team that overlapped the Lakers then, with Tim Duncan, an all-time top 10 player in his own right. Kobe was the best player in those series every time they played the Spurs, because you got Duncan and Shaq offsetting each other, and Kobe was the reason why they were winning those titles, or getting to those titles, to have Shaquille O'Neal dominate in the NBA Finals. So I think it's a tale of 2 different runs in terms of the West and then who they got from the East. It's fair to say that Shaq was an elite all-time player back then, just like, honestly, I think they're the 2 best players. I think that Shaq, Kobe, and Duncan were the 3 best players in the NBA then. So you can make a case in any order that the 2 of the 3 best players were on the Lakers. Yeah. But I think when you look at, I mentioned overall help, and you kind of compared Bosh and Wade. When you look at Kobe's, his 2 title runs with Shaq and then Gasol, like, that's really all he had. Like, I know Shaq is a lot to have. But Gasol, I mean, he's like maybe the 18th, 20th best player maybe in the NBA at the time. And when you look at LeBron's guys that he's had, I know Wade and Bosh were in decline at the end, but 2 perennial All-Stars. He then jumps to Cleveland. He gets 2 perennial All-Stars in Kyrie and Love. He then goes to LA and plays with, and you mentioned Shaq, but Connor, the Anthony Davis numbers that year they won in 2020 were insane numbers. Insane.
Led the team in points and rebounds. He was the guy. He was unbelievable. Absolutely.
So when you combine all the help that LeBron's had throughout his career, I still think it outweighs the help that Kobe Bryant had in his.
Okay, well, you got to meet me halfway when we're talking about help, because you look at the guys now, you just need more to win a championship now. And how many times in the last near decade have we said that team will be back, that guy will be back? We seem to say it almost every year, and it doesn't happen. Imagine during Giannis's run, if you said that guy, we'd be sitting, what was that, 5+ years ago now, and the guy wouldn't have come close. And then Jokic, people thought. You remember how we were talking about this Celtics team 2 years ago? And now it's like, do they trade? Do they go all in for Giannis, another guy we're talking about? I think the league is so talented, and you'll probably see people talk about how, Russell did whatever he allegedly did. Jordan won 6, Kareem won 6, Magic won 5. And now this era, you've seen LeBron win 4, Curry win 4. And now no one can really get a second one, right, in this era. And look at the Thunder. What were we just talking? And now they might lose. And now it's like, wait, did they go all in for a Giannis? Can they win with this core? We were just talking about this team winning, however many, being a near dynasty. The league is so good. It's so good right now, man. And there are so many amazing players. And I think that's going, if we look, we revisit this 5 years from now, I think a lot of guys won't have the same trophy case as they did 20, 30 years ago. And that's not to get into, I think individual players are just better now, but that's completely aside the point. I think there are just more good players, if that makes sense. I don't know if I worded that quite the way I wanted to, but I think it's just so hard to compare. Like, again, these gauntlets, Jokic just got belt to ass in the first round. You know what I mean? And we're talking about this guy like he's an all-time great because he is. Like, it's crazy how good the Celtics lost in the first round. I know they've been banged up, but I think it's so hard. And especially with the money that's involved, if you're the 4th best player on a championship team, you're going to go make $40 million a year playing for, the Wizards or someone. So I think it's so hard to, keep a team together, a championship team together for a longer stretch of time. And how about I throw this at you? Because this is going to blow your mind. We are living through the worst timeline of LeBron James's career. There's no way you play out his career 100 times and he has 4 rings and four MVPs. The guy was the best player in the NBA, was a top 3 to 4 MVP guy for over a decade. 2015, they should have won. 2007, then it took in 17 and 18. How great was that 2017 Cavs team? I think they were better than 2016. It just so happened the second and third best player in the NBA joined forces behind his back. The third best player in the league at the time, a top 12 to 15, 18 player by any metric you want to spin it, Kevin Durant, at the peak of his powers, joins up with the unanimous MVP. What are we talking about? And yeah, so he was still playing at an elite level. 2018 LeBron is the best player I've ever seen. And, like, he should get credit for making the finals that year, dude. And then you see after that, he's still playing at a high level that we've never seen before at 37, at 38. And, like, again, that's a cop-out answer, and I'm sure people will hate on that. That's more of, like, for my LeBron guys, so we can kind of relish in, like, what could have been, because we love doing that. Cut that out. But, like, I'm not expecting any points for that take. But I think it's a real take. I think when you go down every year, and there's no way, if they had a second dude with a pulse, I remember in 2008 in the summer during the Olympics when the Cleveland Cavaliers signed Mo Williams, a fringe all-star. It was a celebration. I was like, wow, this team, like, we are going to win it all because they just needed someone else who could score 16. Like, and obviously they didn't win, but how many times, if we play out LeBron's career a million different times, you don't think he wins in that first Cleveland stretch? This team, the greatest draft pick of all time, they pick their guy from Akron, Ohio, and you just don't do anything with it for 7 years, dude. It's unbelievable. Like, so I really think, again, he's not clutch, all this stuff, it gets blown out of proportion. I think if so many tiny things went differently, the guy has, 6 rings, and then this isn't even a freaking discussion. And the fact that you're talking about Kobe Bryant to me is just insane, dude. What are we talking here? Riddle me there. Sorry, do you have a counter to that? I keep talking for a long time. I
hate that's okay. Like I said, I'm definitely long-witted at times. I like to get my points out. So, like I said, I don't want to just be cutting each other off. This has been a great conversation. But the reason you brought the word clutch up, Connor, the old elephant in the room. You brought it up.
Let's get into it.
So look, Kobe Bryant. First of all, let me just lay the competition level down to you because you're talking about, we talked about the sporting cast, but I also mentioned level of competition. And we talked about it in New York on the House of Highlights, Michael Jordan's competition versus LeBron James. LeBron James, I brought this stat up. He's played 57 career playoff series. And of those 57 series, 31 of his opponents won at least 50 games in a regular season. So that would be roughly 54% of his opponents throughout all playoff rounds. So like half the time, LeBron's playing an upper echelon 50-win team.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant it's one of the craziest metrics of Kobe Bryant's career. 37 of his 43 postseason opponents, 50-plus win teams. 86%, Connor. Basically 9 times out of 10, Kobe Bryant's playing a top 50 opponent or a 50-win opponent.
Yeah.
And he played a top 5 defense 50% of the times as well in those series. LeBron 38% of the time. So like LeBron's playing good defenses like 40% of the time almost, but Kobe 50%. Every other series is an elite defensive team and a 50-win opponent. So like the fact that Kobe, you talk about a timeline where someone has more. What if Kobe wasn't playing 90% of his opponents as 50 wins? What if Kobe didn't have to live in a conference that had Tim Duncan? Like when Kobe won 5, Tim Duncan won 5 as well over that same span of time. Like what if those things, what if Kobe was in a different timeline?
Sure.
I think quite frankly, 4 rings in 23 years, whichever way you want to slice it, underachievement. Kobe with his 5 rings in 20 years, but he didn't finish 3 seasons of the 20 years because of legitimate season-ending injuries, a broken kneecap, a ruptured Achilles. So 17 years, and we'll even take 1 year off LeBron because he didn't finish in 2019 or whatever. He didn't finish the year. So I'll take 1 year off him. 4 rings in 22 years.
21, they were going to win it if it wasn't for Solomon Hill, like slide tackling him. They were the best team in the league, and he was second in MVP at the time. So, sorry.
But anyway, Kobe, 5 and 17 through insane competition with less help. LeBron, 4 and 22 against easier comp and more help. That's what one of the main reasons I have Kobe above him so high is because of those facts.
So I love, like, you're one of the only people who thinks that like Kobe was just so we always like, combine the three-peat. The first year Shaq was better than him, like it wasn't close. The next two, even if we want to call it 1A, 1B, you don't get that shine for winning as a 1A or a 1B. It's the same. I have a very tough time with Kareem and Magic because it was like one year Kareem won MVP and then Magic was finals MVP. And then it was like flipped 2 years later. And some people have them as like the third and fourth best players of all time. So they're going into the series as the two best players on the floor. Like, who do you give the credit? We're talking about how it's a team sport, but like it's very catered to the individual. How do you break that up? Like, who gets the shine for the ring? I think unless you're the clear, like LeBron had all this help, so much help that he leads every series he's in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. Like, that's how much help he needs, is that he leads the team in every statistic, which he's still doing in year 23, leading the team in points and assists and getting a win in the playoffs as a plus 600 underdog, which I want to circle back. Speaking of having no help, Shaquille O'Neal leaves, right? And he wins a ring like the next year in Miami, which we mentioned how good D Wade was. Shaq was still like runner-up and MVP one of those years. Break down those 3 years post Shaq for me. I know you're going to talk about Smush Parker. I know all about it. The guy didn't win a playoff series for 3 years in his prime. Well, you're telling me that he's the best player in the NBA. And this is where the Jordan, because the Jordan guys like yourself, they all became Kobe guys because they were similar and they just missed out on the greatest career of all time. Again, I don't envy you at all, Skap. I've said it 8 times, but what happened during those 3 years? Because LeBron, he gets hate. You were hating on the 2007 finals because he averaged, 22, 7, and 6? The team shouldn't have been there. It doesn't matter what he did when you drag a team backwards to the finals, scoring 48, scoring all 18 points, the last 25 to finish a game. This guy, I can't believe it. He went 3 years in his prime without winning a playoff series. They missed the playoffs. The next year, they blow a 3-1 lead. And then we all know what happened in Game 7. He shoots 3 times in the second half. He shoots 1 shot in the fourth quarter to prove a point. He requests a trade, but he didn't get traded. So we hate on LeBron for like utilizing his free will and leaving when like everyone else is requesting a trade and then it doesn't get granted. And now he's Laker for life. It's like you don't get credit for that. And then they lose in 5. I know that's a great Suns team. I know he dropped 50 in the last series that I mentioned. I know all this. He went 3 years because with LeBron, it doesn't matter. LeBron doesn't win. And it's like, well, nothing else really matters. In 2018, people talk about how did he do in overtime of game 1? He only had 2 points. Then you talk about games 2 through 4, which he still put up great numbers, right? You talk about him shooting under 40% in the 2015 finals after having a 2-1 lead. It's like, again, context matters, but we throw context. The guy didn't win a single playoff series 3 years in a row, dude, in his prime. Tell me why.
Sure, I would love to, Connor. Love to see it. Love to see it. So LeBron James, in one of the things that is talked about most in his young career is how he dragged, which you alluded to it again, how he dragged the team single-handedly through the playoffs in 2007 and into the NBA Finals.
Sure. Yeah.
He didn't play a team over 500 till the Eastern Conference Finals in that run. The 41-41 Nets and the 41-41 Wizards. Kobe Bryant in the years, you're right, they didn't make the playoffs the 1 year. He got hurt. He missed like 20 games. And because the team was so bad around him, because he missed 20 games, they didn't qualify for the playoffs that 1 year. So the other 2 years that you referenced where he didn't win a single playoff game, he played the Suns both times, which had league MVP Steve Nash with a lot of Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion, like loaded teams supporting pass-wise. Yes, Kobe with, again, you mentioned it. Smush, let me just tell you the whole rotation.
Yeah.
Smush Parker.
I know all about
Kwame Brown. Chris
Kwame Brown.
Brian Cook, Luke Walton, and Lamar. Those were his principal core rotational pieces.
Luke Walton, they had a player coach on the floor. That you're going to discredit the guy?
Not one of those teammates in those 3 seasons made a single All-Star game ever in their entire careers combined. Never All-NBA. When Kobe, the year in 05-06, when they blew the 3-1 lead, when Kobe was on the floor during the season, he played 80 games. When he's on the floor, they were the second best net offense in the league, they were right up there with the Dallas Mavericks, who were #1 that year. When he was off the floor, they had the worst offensive rating in NBA history. That's how bad, how much they cratered without Kobe. So he got them the 3-1 lead against the Suns. Look, you're going to Phoenix. In game 5, you're getting buzzsawed in that when you're up 3-1. So you take your loss, you go back home to LA and close it out. In that closeout game 6 in LA, Kobe had 50 and they were up 3 with like 15 seconds left. And the Suns, all they had to do was get an offensive or a defensive rebound against the Suns. They win that series. The Lakers give up 2 consecutive missed rebound opportunities in that final 15 seconds. And I think it was Tim Thomas drilled the go-ahead to get him into overtime. Kobe still had 12 points in overtime on 4 of 6. Not enough. They go and then they get obliterated on the road. And so that, you say context, those are the things. If you take that Kobe, 05-06 Kobe, on his ass team with his ass lineup, but you put him in the East, he would have won series in the East. So that, look, when LeBron was doing what you're talking about and winning all these playoff games with nobody, over the span of 15 years that LeBron was in the East, 2/3 of the all-NBA players selected to teams in that 15-year span were in the West. The West had they won 59% of the head-to-head games throughout all regular seasons for 15 years against the East. The West was just much better. So when Kobe was dragging these ass squads to the playoffs with no help, he was then playing these elite teams at the upper end that he couldn't beat because his supporting cast was so bad.
I think that's just such I agree. The East was significantly worse. You're spot on. But I think it's quite a stretch to say 3 years of in your prime. You say that's the best scoring prime ever, those years for Kobe Bryant. The fact that he didn't win a playoff series, that has to matter. And you could say if he was in the East, well, he wasn't. So I feel like that. To say that this is the second greatest basketball player in the history of time, and he wasn't able to drag a team to one playoff series win, I think that's crazy. What was I thought I had. You mentioned MVP Nash. Should Kobe have won either of those two?
100%. He should have had one of them.
Okay.
He should have had.
Well, then it wouldn't be MVP Nash, and then I don't know where that argument. But okay, I just, man. You're really blowing my mind here, and I feel like I'm kind of now getting my words a little bit jumbled because I can't believe that you can just. What happened in Game 7 in the second half of that game? Everyone knows.
I like that. Now we can get in. I wanted to get that on the record so we can get into what happens next. So obviously, yes, Kobe was pouting, and that is an undeniable and an admitted blemish on Kobe's legacy. And I'm not saying Kobe's perfect. He's got stains. The 2004 NBA Finals, where him and Shaq lost 4-1 to the Detroit Pistons, putrid. He blew a 22-point lead on his home court in a 2-1 series in the 2008 Finals against Boston. Would have been a 2-2 series. The Paul Pierce shit his pants game where he got wheeled off and then came back. They blew that 22-point lead Kobe did at home. They go on and lose by 37 in the elimination game in 2008. Terrible moment for Kobe Bryant. And you just pointed out the Game 7 where he was pouting in the second half. He had 25, 26 points in the first half. They were down 19 still. And he's like, the hell with this team. I can't win with them. Let me show how good we really are if I'm not, scoring 30, 40, 50 points every game. And he undeniably pouted and just didn't shoot at all in Game 7.
Yeah.
So then the next season, Connor, what happened in 2008, the season after that Game 5 elimination by Phoenix the following year. They were the 16th odds-on favorite to win the NBA championship that season. With the team that they had, they were I think they were 8th or 9th odds to get out of the West. Kobe Bryant, from the start of the season to the trade deadline that year, so 60% of the year completed, had the number 1 record in the NBA. And his best player was Andrew Bynum, was 21-year-old Andrew Bynum. He blew his knee out, so then he was done for the year. He got an ACL. He's done for the year. So then the Lakers had to make a deal. They go and trade then with Memphis for 7-year in the league Pau Gasol, who had made 1 All-Star appearance prior to the trade deadline, right, when he went to LA. Kobe took that guy on that team that had the 16th best odds that we were just talking was all that heinous ass for 3 years in a row. Couldn't even win a playoff series. He took that one-time All-Star, went all the way to the NBA Finals, lost, of course, as we know, as I just said, by 37 points in Game 6 to Boston. But then he comes back the next 2 years with practically the same team, and he goes to 2 consecutive championship runs, wins them both against the 2 teams directly that eliminated LeBron James in those postseasons when he was the league MVP with the best record in the NBA. Now, in that 3-year span of time when he went to 3 straight, Connor, 11 of the 12 opponents he played 50-win teams. More 50-win teams than Magic Johnson played in his entire career in the postseason. Kobe played in those 3 years.
That's crazy.
With Pau Gasol as his only all-star guy. Pau Gasol, a non-top 75 player.
Yeah.
And during those 3 years, Kobe led the league in scoring all 3 years in the playoffs. The only player ever to score 600 or more in 3 straight playoff runs. Not even Jordan did it. LeBron never did it, only Kobe.
Wow.
So you're telling me this guy's playing 50-win juggernaut teams every round with Pau Gasol, a non-top 75 player, as his elite teammate, while scoring more than anybody ever has in a 3 straight finals run appearance, and he won back-to-back. Connor, that run is a masterpiece. It's not only better than anything LeBron ever did. I think it's even better. It's close to Jordan. It's the closest thing to Jordan, which is why I say Kobe's number 2 to Jordan. That's why
I don't get the close. Like, that's like the rationale, people. And again, that was an unbelievable run. That's why that's why he's a top, 7 player of all time. Some people have him closer to 12, and I'd be okay with that too. But having him at 2 is insane. That's an unbelievable run. And then, the next year, obviously, they got swept by the Mavs, and like people don't talk about that series at all. But again, to say that run, I feel like, man, to look at LeBron from, like, just look at the second stint in Cleveland, those 4 years. He only had 1 ring, but he was playing some of the highest level basketball we've ever seen. Like, do you not think, bro, if Kevin Durant does not join that team, they win again in 2017. Like, I 100% think so. If Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving don't get hurt, they probably win in 2015. And I hate to do the if game, but I mean, I guess that's kind of what all this debate is. So I feel like to look at the finals run of 2018, again, I think that might be the highest level of basketball that I've ever seen. He was on the 8 40-point games going toe-to-toe with that Warriors team in game 1. Like, 51 points. That's the best game he's ever played, in my opinion. But it's like we get to throw out that playoff run because they didn't finish the job. And again, that series was over after game 1. But I can't believe that we can watch that game. Let's just go to that game where they were so undermanned. And he's going, and the best thing about that game is it wasn't a Steph Curry disaster class, 1 for 11 from 3. KD had 18 points. It wasn't any of that. He's going blow for blow with what I think is the best team, at least of the last 20 years, or I guess the 01 Lakers, whatever. But the fact that he carried a team to the finals, he gets credit for. And then the fact that he played at that level, again, he didn't win a ring, but I don't understand how you could hold it against the guy, man. Like, it's insane to me.
I mean, look, unfortunately, again, I use this line not in our last debate that we did in New York, but in the first one. It's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
Yeah,
what Batman says to Rachel Dawes on the rooftop. Like, LeBron, look, unfortunately in basketball and in sports largely, as we talked about, the ring counting culture, but mainly in basketball, and I think from fairly in basketball, like if you win or lose, it ultimately does impact the way we look at it. Like Nikola Jokic, we talked about him. Like, look, he lost that series 2 years ago or 3 years ago against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was magnificent in that series.
Yeah.
Magnificent. Even last year, you said he had 2 historic games against one of the greatest net defenses in league history in the Oklahoma City Thunder that is perfectly built. 2 of the 3 best defensive bigs on the planet outside of Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, perfectly constructed to be able to shut down Jokic. He had historic performances, and yet we're talking about him as a playoff dropper now and a guy that's never going to get into the top 10 because he hasn't won enough. Unfortunately, like, what you do does define you to some degree. Like, do you finish the thing off? And like, he didn't those years. And I agree. He would have won in 2015 had Love and Irving not gotten hurt. But
Yeah.
I also think this, and I'm interested on your take on this. I don't think Kevin Durant would have ever even joined the Warriors if LeBron didn't lay the blueprint out in Miami first, and then again did it again in Cleveland.
So
So I think KD was like, well, why the hell not? Like, I've got this guy, the best guy in the era, is running around building super. Why can't I do it? What's your take on that?
You're probably right, but like, I mean, this is crazy land of hypotheticals, but I freaking love it. You know what? Kevin Durant doesn't get enough hate, I would say, for that. And I'm a huge KD fan, and I think he's somewhat redeemed himself, although he just jumps from team to team like all the time. I mean, he was almost going back to Golden State a couple years ago, and that's like 3 teams ago now. So like, who knows what he's going to do right now? But to think that this guy who was coming off an MVP season not too long ago lost to that team after blowing a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals. Looking back at it, and he was one of the most ridiculed athletes of all time, probably other than LeBron when it happened. To look back at and just to say that line, that he lost to them 3-1, blew that series, and then he joined the team that just had the best record in the history of the NBA, a team that just won a championship the year before. It's the weakest move in the history of, like, to even compare that to what LeBron did is outrageous, but I get your point. But again, yeah, he probably wouldn't have done that. So I guess we can blame LeBron. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, that it all comes back to blaming LeBron. It's like we're not able. Go watch Skip Bayless. There's a great cut up on YouTube of him talking the next morning after each one of LeBron's rings. He came on, and again, I know he's kind of just a jester, but like, he has allowed for us to be able to talk about this guy this way. He came on in 2016 after the greatest comeback of all time, right? A series where they were going against a team that just had the best record in NBA history, one of the greatest constructed teams of all time, I would say, from top to bottom, bench, offense, defense. They came back down 3-1. He led both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. And Skip Bayless got on, and the first thing he said, how is Kyrie Irving not MVP? He's the one who hit the shot. Like, hey, we're just giving LeBron James the finals MVP. And I think that's a great summary of the way we view this guy in comparison to the GOAT, because it was GOAT or bust. And it's like, that allows us to not appreciate these amazing things that he's done. The fact that he doesn't get flowers for that first Cleveland run. The fact that we're able to sit here and say it should have been him versus Kobe, and he didn't hold up his end of the bargain. The second Cleveland run, again, he left a little bit more on the table there. But again, you just have to look at each stop. And actually, the guy led both teams in points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. He had 2 41-point games back to back. It was I think that's the greatest sports moment ever. I mean, it is for me. You can't say that wasn't the greatest comeback. The best team ever, 73-9, and he comes back down 3-1. And people were still questioning that. The bubble. You best believe if anyone else won the bubble championship, it would be, I mean, I think it should count as 2 rings. It was the purest hoops of all time. They're trapped in a war zone damn near, and this guy's rallying the team, and you hear the rest of the people, they're like, oh, we were only going to do it if LeBron, talking about him like he's some superhero. And the media even says, oh, nobody fears him. Yeah, go ask Austin Rivers when he threw the ball at his head if he feared LeBron, because I think he did a little bit. The team that had the best, they were the favorite going into that season. They were the favorite when COVID happened, coming off wins over the Bucks and Clippers, LeBron playing at the peak of his powers. They probably would have won anyway. And then guess what? We don't have to play the probably game because they did win. So, like, people discredit that ring. And that's, again, kind of summarizes the way we like to talk about LeBron James, where we are able to be like, it's kind of like 3 with an asterisk. No, it's not. It isn't. Like, everyone was playing, they were still playing basketball, and everyone signed up to play. So, I mean, he gets more hate on the bubble ring than Kawhi and Paul George get for blowing a 3-1 lead to Jokic and the Nuggets. Nobody talks about that. That was the team. That was the super team that was supposed to beat the Lakers, the Battle of LA. Didn't end up happening because they blew it, and nobody hears about that. And speaking of Kawhi, I mentioned this to you. You talked about, is LeBron the GOAT of his era? And I know you were kind of, joking around a little bit. You think that Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant are the second and third best players of all time. So young LeBron, that's who he's matching up with. And then we've seen Kevin Durant. We've seen Steph Curry. We've seen a Kawhi Leonard. Now we've seen a Giannis. We've seen a Jokic. We've seen an SGA. Like, the league's better now, dude. Like, there are so many big time guys that LeBron has had to go through. And like, again, those are all guys who probably, not to say they would have destroyed Jordan's era, because I don't like to do that, but it's true if we're going to get into that, right? And instead of having the second best wing be your running mate, be the guy who leads your team in rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, and defend the other team's best player, Scottie Pippen, the second best wing in the NBA at the time, LeBron is having these historic battles with these guys, going toe-to-toe with them, because unfortunately they were not on the same team as him. So
now look, I will say there's a lot there to unpack. I will say the bubble, in direct response to that, like the one thing they lucked out on was there was nearly a 5-month layoff, which means that AD, who is hurt all the time, got to be completely fresh and rested for that run. And AD, look, you talk about who Jordan had with him in that bubble. Look, AD led the bubble in scoring and win shares that year, that playoff run. That year he was, I don't know, he averaged like 25 and 13 that year. He was he was first team All-NBA, first team All-NBA defense, finished second in defensive player of the year. He was sixth in MVP voting, was AD. And then he had just a masterful bubble. So I think and the fact that he was fresh and rested, a guy who's hurt basically half the time, was totally ready and locked and loaded. That's the one pushback I give against that bubble.
That's fair.
And also the heat that they got. I'm not even going to say the Heat stunk as a team that they got in the finals. All I'm going to say is we talked about injuries that LeBron got against him in 2015. Look, Jimmy Butler had a pretty severely sprained ankle. Their two next best players on that team, Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic. Bam missed 2 of the 6 games, and Dragic missed 4 of the 6 games. So they were substantially banged up, still took that Lakers team 6 in there. Now, I do want to talk about the 2016.
Bam Adebayo, the second greatest scorer of all time. Again, that should count for 2 rings. I mean, what are we doing here?
I want to go back to what you think is the best sports thing that you've ever experienced, the 2016 comeback.
Yeah.
And LeBron, Connor, would agree with you, because he, of course, famously first started calling himself the GOAT on that couch with
that
Rich
one made
Paul
him the
sitting
greatest
next
of all
to him.
time. Yes, sir.
Right after that final series. That one right there made me the GOAT. So, look, I think I'm not going to Skip Bayless levels. I think LeBron deservingly got the finals MVP for that finals.
You think so? What was it about, him leading both teams in every statistic that gave it away?
But I will say this. The whole playoff run that year, Connor, 2016, LeBron scored 26 points per game on that whole run. Kyrie scored 25 points per game on that whole run.
Yeah.
And look, in clutch time, Connor, in the 2016 final, the best run you've ever seen.
Yeah.
The whole postseason, not just the finals.
Yeah.
The whole postseason that year. LeBron James in the clutches. By the way, let me define clutch for you, because we'll talk clutch now. Clutch being, the way the NBA defines it is 5 minutes or less, 5 points or less, 5 points either way. So if you're up 5 or down 5 in the last 5 minutes. Now, that's not clutch to me. I'm talking the clutchest zone of time. The final 2 minutes within one score. So one score either way. You're up by 3 or down by 3 within the last 2 minutes. LeBron James, that whole finals run, scored 5 points on 2 of 9 shooting in that clutch time, which is like whatever. It's like 27%. Kyrie Irving, now, not a lot of clutch moments for them in that, because they blew everybody out to get into the finals. And then they played just that close final, and then they blew the Warriors out in some of those. And
there wasn't one single-digit game in that finals till Game 7, which is the craziest stat ever. But sorry.
So not a lot of clutch, not a lot of clutch sample size in that run.
Yeah.
But LeBron 5 points on 2 of 9. Kyrie with 8 points on 3 of 6. So Kyrie was the close, the identified closer. And he did hit. I'm not saying it was enough for him to overtake the finals MVP with everything you mentioned, but he did hit the series clinching, game winning shot And it's not like, Connor, it wasn't like it was like a Michael Jordan to John Paxson or Kerr or a Kobe to Artest. Like, it's not like LeBron sucked in the teeth of like all the defenders and kicked it out at the last second. Kyrie dribbled the ball up himself, isolated Kerr, and then drilled the game-winning shot him. Like, so my point is like, he's not that clutch, which is the detraction I give him over Kobe.
Okay, so it's probably it's the earliest, or it's the, however you want to, it's the most time left on the clock for a game winner, because like when LeBron hits a game winner with 28 seconds left, it's not a buzzer beater, but Kyrie hit the buzzer beater with a minute left. Sometimes in high level hoops, it's one of the most viewed videos on YouTube. It's like the last 3.5 minutes of that game. Jiminy Christmas. No one could shoot. No one could dribble. I mean, I get nervous just talking about it. I don't know if you see my pit sweat. That was high level hoops, which sometimes becomes not so high level hoops. Kyrie hit the shot. He's a dog. I mean, LeBron still had the last point. And if Draymond didn't tackle him, he would have posterized him to win the finals. And it would be the greatest play in NBA history and before history was even invented. So you want to know something, pal? Let's just take the gloves off. Being clutch is overrated, because if you're around in the last 30 seconds, I want the guy who's better for the first 47 minutes and 30 seconds so that we're up by 9 and he's on the bench while everyone's talking about clutch gene. Clutch gene is another thing that was invented by some moron to so that we were able to create this industry where we're allowed to, people get paid to talk about sports. It's an outrageous thing. Like, what do you mean clutch gene, dude? Go ask these guys about clutch gene, about Mamba mentality. We're talking about how we can take 3 years off the end of his career because he was injured all the time. Maybe but he woke up at 3 a.m. to go train. Well, maybe if he stretched instead, that would have prolonged his career. Or like Jordan gets points for being a horrible person. Imagine if that guy had a phone around him 24/7. I mean, he already allegedly maybe got suspended. I'm not going to get into that with you, but I mean, he was not a good guy. And it's like, you give him credit. Like LeBron, I've had a serious conversation with someone about like the I Promise School SAT scores. It's just like, it's not even a real score. It's like, can we give the guy credit for something? But the clutch thing, to circle around, it is overrated, because if you're better at basketball than someone, if you're, let's say, two teams in a hypothetical situation, two basketball teams are playing a game against each other. This is a strictly hypothetical situation. If one team is better than the other team and they're up by 12, there is no clutch. Clutch doesn't exist. So the clutch team, the guy who hits the last shot, isn't like DeMar DeRozan the clutchest player in NBA history by some metric. I mean, where does he fall in this conversation? I mean, it's funny that we're mentioning him, because that's probably what Jordan would look like, except with a worse three-point shot if Jordan were to play today. I'm just getting it all out there right now. But being clutch is overrated, because there is no last shot when the team is up by 10. So I'm kind of half kidding, right? But it does get blown out of proportion. And people talk about this guy not being clutch. I already mentioned 2007 is the clutchest moment in NBA history, because no one's ever done anything like that. 25 straight points. You hear that? Do you hear that? It doesn't really sink in. The game, they were down by 7 with 3 minutes left. They were down by 7. He scores all the remaining points to take it to overtime. He hits what should have been game-winning shot with 30 seconds left in that game. This is at 20 years of age. He hits the game winner with 30 seconds left. The Pistons go out and score. Now they're down by 2. He hits the game-tying shot to send it into overtime. They bring it into overtime. He then hits the shot to bring it into second overtime. They go into second overtime. They're down by 3 with under a minute left. He hits a 3 to tie the game, and then he hits the game winner. It's the clutchest performance of all time. 48 points, 25 in a row, all 18 in overtime, and second overtime, 29 out of 30. Are we just going to glance by that? I mean, and then again, I mentioned 2013, the Ray Allen. He was saved by Ray Allen. He had a 30-point triple-double. He had 16 points in the fourth quarter. Chris Bosh, I do have a lisp. I'm kind of spitting all over the place. Chris Bosh got taken out of the game because he couldn't play. Dwayne Wade, he could barely stand up. Go watch that fourth quarter double-digit comeback led by LeBron James, because those two guys aren't there. Ray Allen hit the shot. LeBron hit the shot before that, and that was game 6. Game 7, he has a 37-point game, and then he hits the game-winning shot to end the finals. What are we talking about, the guys? In 2016, I just mentioned, clutch performance isn't one shot. Clutch performance is 40-point games over the course of a playoff series in 2018, where he hit 3 game-winning shots over the course of that playoff. So if we want to make it one shot, he does pretty well in that department. Clutch performance is in 2016 finals. leading both teams in every single statistical category. You want to go plays, we can go in the block. We can go back against the wall, 31 or 41, 41. And then what do you have? 30, 29 in game 7. He averaged like 37 against elimination. You see these stats all the time that pop up on Twitter. It's like LeBron James in 8 games when facing elimination. It's like a 38-point triple-double. That's what clutch is. Clutch is over the course of a playoffs. Clutch is 2012 with your legacy against the line, down 3-2 in Boston, the team that owns you, the team that made you create super teams, the team that whatever, you go look at what Kevin Garnett has to say about this guy. It looks like he's got the fear of God in him, because when LeBron looked up and that's in the guard. Oh, that's a little bit earlier. He was 12 of 14, 29 points in the first half. He was unstoppable. He's bump shoulder fade off the left. He's not even a bump shoulder fade type of guy. Dropping 45, 15, and 5 with your back against the wall, your legacy on the line. That is clutch. So all you guys like to talk about is the last shot of the game, which matters 1,000,000%. But you can't just say clutch is that. You can't say clutch is the end of a super close game. It is, but a full game can be clutch. A series can be clutch. Clutch is not just the last shot of a game, and we try to make it that. And even so, again, I've mentioned, as we've gotten older, what about clutch? What about being 41 and being the best player on your team and stealing the ball down by 3 in a game that was over? You steal the ball, you get it thrown back to you, and you hit the 3 to send it over into overtime, a game where he went on a 10-0 run with his son, by the way. So he has those clutch moments. He also has, like, oh man, I hate the clutch talk with this guy, because I just rattled off a few pretty clutch moments. Is he going to have any response talking about Kobe? I don't know. Where are the Kobe? We like to discredit LeBron without mentioning anything else, because we could go LeBron, Jordan. It's a great discussion. Kobe, LeBron is not so good of a discussion in the clutch department.
I'm glad.
Did you get all that? I don't know. Sorry.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm glad you asked about Kobe as it compares to LeBron and clutch. And I'm glad you gave me all those great moments, because like I said, I've seen every LeBron playoff moment, and I agree. You brought up some great.
How lucky are you? And how you were out of whatever, the world's been around for 2,020 years, and by some great, you were able to witness every LeBron playoff performance, as you just said, and you don't have a poster of him up behind you. What a shame that is. You were able to live through this, and you're just 20 years from now, you're gonna be like, wait, I was watching all this and I chose to be a hater instead. Oh.
I know, Connor. It's because I had the unfortunate time of being born where I saw a guy that was better than him first. So then I was just annoyed that everyone kept moving LeBron over that guy that was better in Kobe and for the rest of his career. But look, I agree. He's had some great, undeniable moments throughout his career in the playoffs. But unfortunately, look, clutch is what you do when the games are close at the end, not just random buzzer beaters. I'm not here for that. Like I said, I'm here for the last 2 minutes of one score game. So like multiple possessions both ways. How do you impact the game? Like what kind of plays are you making down the stretch? Like if you are the best player ever, or if you are better than Kobe Bryant and better than Michael Jordan or whatever, I would expect, if the game is close, because there's a lot of people of your ilk, the LeBron fans, of course, is what I mean, that will say like, oh, LeBron didn't have the better teams in any of these games. He was outmatched. Yeah. Look at that KD super team, yada, yada, yada. So like, I'm not talking about how outmatched he is or how long the series goes or whatever. I'm saying in the last 2 minutes of one score games, just be the best player ever. And you'll win the games. So like I looked at every stage of clutch, 5 minutes, 3 points or less, 3 points or more, like the last 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. I looked at all of LeBron's and Kobe's entire career, and I'll tell you what I found, Connor. Much to my shock and dismay, LeBron was as good or better even than Kobe in clutch moments in various stages of time and series throughout their playoff careers. However, Connor, in the finals, in Kobe's 7 finals and in LeBron's 10 finals, Kobe played in 16 super clutch games, that being final 2 minutes, one possession or less, and same with LeBron. LeBron played in 21 such super clutch moments. So 16 games for Kobe, 21 for LeBron. Kobe Bryant in those moments shot 10 of 20 from the field. for 50% from the field in those games. And as a result of Kobe's clutch winning plays, his teams in those 16 games, 11-5 record overall. LeBron James in his 21 clutch moment games shot just 8 of 29 from the field. That is good for 27%. And as a result of LeBron's heinous choke jobs with doo-doo streaming down his leg in those moments, his teams went 10-11 in those 21 games. So those games, Connor, like that's the difference. That's why Kobe had 5 and not 3 or 4. And that's why LeBron has 4 and not 6 or 7. Because of those moments, Connor. And to me, look, I get to bring the whole conversation into light. I get where you're coming from. And I get where LeBron James fans are coming from. Look at the overall context of his entire career. Take an overall big, higher level snapshot of it. And that's why he's 1 or 2 all time. To me, I live in the moments, though. I live in the fleeting opportunities that these guys have to rise to ultimate greatness. And like, I live in those moments more because all these guys are super athletic. All of them have great eye tests. All of them have great resumes. Like, what do they do to differentiate themselves? And to me, it's those moments that like Kobe Bryant owned and Michael Jordan owned, and LeBron simply, to me, has slipped away in those times. And that's why I don't have him above Kobe or Jordan.
Yeah, that's all very fair criticism, and that's something that I don't do. Like, a lot of LeBron fans take it the next, and they're like, actually, he's the clutchest player of all time. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I'm doing so much arguing that he's just like not super unclutch, right? So like when you get into him, again, you have all the stats, right? I don't know how to combat against that, what he's shooting in the last couple minutes of the game. Unfortunately, I don't know. I have seen, that's another number that you always see kind of a different thing. Some people say LeBron's like 5 of like 88 in like last shots of the game or whatever. People throw crazy numbers. I'm not disputing that. But again, I think to even a lot of those shots Kobe was hitting, right? I think it just matters so much that Shaquille O'Neal was in a guy averaging 38. We're talking about the finals. We were talking about playoff runs earlier. You just mentioned the finals. The guy was averaging 40 points. That's a lot of points. Like, that matters. You think the defense was like, all right, like, I think they would be fine letting Kobe beat them. And again, that's an oversimplification. I understand. But when LeBron James at the end of the game, despite what anyone says, he's the guy in 2015 calling off David Blatt, the bum. That's who the guy's coaching. I mean, what's David Blatt up to these days? He might be hopping on with us next week. I don't know. He's looking for work, I think. LeBron calls him off. And he says, put the ball in my fucking hands. I'm going to go score. And that's what he does. Hits the game winner, hits the buzzer beater against the Bulls in, I believe, the second round. That is clutch. That's clutch. It wasn't the finals, but that's clutch. Like, that's the killer instinct, the Mamba mentality that he never had. But he has buzzer. Like, even that, nobody talks about that. That's like a forgotten one, right? So, again, on the last couple minutes, like, again, there are maybe some numbers of Kobe Bryant shooting better than him at the end of the game, but unfortunately that's one of the few things that even you can compare about these two guys, because LeBron is just such a overall better at basketball. And even the only thing Kobe has is himself as a scorer. Even that's such a close conversation, because he was not the number one option at the beginning of his career, which matters in a conversation like this. He had a quick stretch where he was a shot chucker, missing the playoffs or getting bounced in the first round. It's like, again, I don't even know how to comprehend that. We're still getting out of the first round in our 40s. You know what I mean? So I don't know how to
Three times in 8 years.
Huh?
3 times in 8 years, LeBron's been out of the first round as a Laker. 3 times in 8 years.
That, dude. What do you do? I thought we had an agreement here that you weren't going to bring that, but he was hurt one of them, right? I mean, 21 is one that I can't get over. That team was so good. He was playing at dude, that's again why, as a LeBron fan, when we talk about help, I know you really know this because you know your stuff, but like, dude, that team in 2020, and then they had most of the guys in 21. That team was so good, and it was the perfect constructed team for LeBron. And Anthony Davis, we always thought, if you told me 10 years ago Anthony Davis would be a perennial first-team All-NBA, multiple-time MVP even, we would have believed you when he was averaging 29 and 12 in those New Orleans days early. I thought this guy, a lot of people would have said, like, that's the number one guy you would start a franchise with at the time. And I'm not discrediting AD. I love AD. He didn't quite get there. As you mentioned, in the 2020 run, that was the Anthony Davis that we all thought he was going to be. 21, 22, 23. Again, he had moments where he was like that, but when you're missing 20-plus games a year, you're missing, like, he never quite reached, because I thought LeBron was going to pass him the torch. And it kind of never fully, again, they were like a 1A, 1B for a lot of those. In the finals run, as you mentioned, Anthony Davis was phenomenal. But Caruso, KCP, Danny Green, and then they had Dwight Howard in the put. Like, that was such a perfectly constructed team. You look at what the Lakers are now, even before Luka, that's just not, how to play against LeBron. And another thing I want to mention, because we're getting on clutch, so I'll try to change the subject. But with the longevity, people, it's become such an odd, when I grew up, I used to hear about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and how he was a great player into his late 30s. Heck, he was averaging double figures at 40. Like, unbelievable. How was he doing that? And we gave him his flowers for it, as we should. For whatever reason with LeBron, it's almost reverted back into a negative, because when he was 36, 37 doing this, it's amazing. And now it's like, all right, dude, get over yourself. And Skap, this guy at 41 in year 23, diving on the floor on a random Friday night, right? When the team is, in the midst or about to be in the playoffs. They moved him into the third option, which, he was really the second option. Anyone who thinks Reeves is better, Reeves averages like 0.8 more, and LeBron has everything else better. So he's always been better than Reeves. But he moved into this Swiss Army knife, super Draymond role, whatever you want to call it. I want to give him credit for that, man, because I think it's unbelievable. He's not just playing. He's averaging 21, 7, and 6. He's going and dropping 28, leading the team in scoring in a playoff series. Again, to think that's not why I think he's the best player of all time. I thought that for a very long time. But it's getting hard to put Kobe Bryant when you look at who was better early? LeBron by far. Who was better late? LeBron by further. Who was better in the middle? I don't really see how that's close. But, like, if you want to say Kobe, I think he snatched his chain in 2007, 2008. When was Kobe the best player in the NBA? I'm not going to nick right and say he never was. Again, there's not like a clear best player every year. But 07, 08, and if we're saying by 2009 it wasn't LeBron, you're out of your mind, right? So, again, I kind of just went all over the place there. But I think the point I was trying to make is that this is another thing that perfectly encapsulates the bizarre way we talk about LeBron James. For some reason, in year 23, he was an all-NBA guy last year. He was 6th in MVP voting at 40 years old in his 22nd season. You want to talk about Tom Brady. If Tom Brady gets hit, the left tackle might be getting an ass whooping in the locker room. LeBron's out there, like, it's a much... I can't call it more physical than what Tom Brady's doing, but for him to be 360 windmilling into his late 30s and now 40s, I think that has to count for something. And again, we're having this conversation at the back end of our larger conversation because it's not the most important thing. But I, as a respected BronSexual, as someone, a respected figure in this community, I have to mention that because it's not only become like a negative, and it's very bizarre to me. I think we should be celebrating this guy, and instead we're like talking about whatever, like this as if it's a bad thing. It's a look at me thing. Like, I just disagree with that. What are your thoughts on the longevity aspect of it?
I think the longevity overall is very impressive. He clearly has the best longevity of any basketball player ever. There's no refuting that. But there also is no denying that I am more of a peak guy, or I think like peak is more important. Yeah. And the fact that, like, Kobe's peak to me, to just mention what I think it was, 2000 to like 2011, basically. So that's like a 11-year span where he was all NBA every year, and he was all NBA defense 9 out of the 11 years. He went to 7 finals in 11 years and won 5 of them, while leading that 11-year span in total points scored and in points per game averaged. So that was Kobe's peak to me. And it's hard, honestly, to overcome that peak for anybody other than Michael Jordan, which is, again, another reason why I've got Kobe to Jordan. While LeBron's individual peaks are crazy within the longevity, or his extended peak in terms of his longevity is crazy, I will say that it does kind of work against him a little bit, in the sense of the more he plays, the longer years, like it's going to be 24 years next year, maybe going on. He might want to play if it's in LA, I think he probably ends next year in LA in year 24. Yeah. If he goes somewhere else, I can see him staying for 2 years elsewhere. So maybe he plays 25 years. Connor, at that point, like, people are already saying, yo, Jordan, 6 rings in 15 years, which really, look, Jordan didn't really play 2 of those years. Like, he played 17 and 18 games in 2 of those years. So we're talking 6 rings in 13. Like I said, we're talking for Kobe, 5 rings in 17, where he wasn't his season ending. LeBron, 24, 25 years for 4 rings. In that regard, I think the longevity does work against him, because you could say, Connor, he's top 15 players still league-wide with good players surrounding him. And he's been doing it for 25 years, and to only win 4, like, that's a criticism, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. But I think it's like a difference in the way we view the game. Like, again, I just don't. Again, it's not at the end of the season, and people even call LeBron a loser for what he just said. Or you just made a freaking video about this. He said we were outmatched by OKC, and you're like, oh, the chosen one becomes the frozen one. Like, what, do you not think he was outmatched by OKC? I mean, maybe we're watching a different sport, because he seemed a little bit outmatched in my most humble opinion. So I get now it's coming 4-22, 4-23, 4-24. Again, we just view the game in a very bizarre way, where it's all about rings and we're missing everything else. I just say that last part because him playing with Luka, who stylistically, especially at this point in his career, like, you wouldn't think the two would gel. And then Reeves, who I'm not a huge fan of, who's just a scorer or can't do any, he can't play defense, he can't play off ball. For LeBron to gel and, again, become the super, which anyone with eyes and a brain who's not like extremely biased knew that that's what he was going to be able to move into, because he can play off ball despite what everyone says, and he's the ultimate point forward. And he did a great job of that. And I thought that was pretty cool to see. And then, I mean, the team was rolling heading into the playoffs. I'm not saying they were going to beat either of these two teams. Obviously, I think they would have beat both of them and won the finals. And we could basically claim this ring because Luka got hurt. But neither here nor there. I mean, if I want to move into fantasy land like you, and with you think Kobe's the best, so I can make claims like that. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a wonderful Christmas. But the team was rolling with him in this new role, and it was very fun to see. And then for him to flip back and become the number 1 option, leading the team in points, in assists, playing with his son, playing real minutes, the greatest 55th pick in the history of time, going on a 10-0 run with his son, the 55th pick, outscoring the Rockets bench, him throwing an alley-oop as part of that 10-0 run. Again, call me whatever you want, I think that's kind of cool. You know, I think that kind of, does that help to make him the greatest player of all time? Yeah, probably not. But, like, I think that's unbelievable, man. And I was just telling you how I became all I wanted for my 8th birthday was a LeBron James jersey. Here I am at 27. I'm still kind of a moron, right? A lot has changed in my life, and I'm still watching this guy hit clutch buckets in the playoffs. It's unbelievable. And again, I like, another thing that people say, because the Jordan fans, you just able to like take off years, because it's like, oh, he really played 13, and then the Wizards, he really played 11. It's like, okay, well, he really played 6, because we all know that the 95
I count the Wizards year.
I count the Wizards. Well, that's another thing that I think makes me the people who came up to you the other day in New York, they're like, you mentioned the Wizards years. That might be one of the best, the tip of the hat to Jordan, dude. The guy was averaging 22, 23 at 39. That's one of the aura of Michael Jordan, in my opinion, is like one of his biggest, biggest checks in his department, right? Because like he came out to sell tickets because he was the owner of the team. I think that's the sickest thing ever. He showed up like a month before the season and he averaged 23 at 40. Like, that's unbelievable, dude. Like, the team stunk. Who cares? That's one of the, that is not a knock on Michael Jordan. For LeBron people to say that, it's like, I completely disagree with that. I mean, again, he was playing pretty good. But it is funny how we like move the goalposts. And I'll tell you about the aura of Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, which is one of the most unbelievable documentaries of all time. We found out the flu game. I heard about this flu game growing up. The dude was probably hungover, and they're even lying about it, saying he was eating a cheese pizza the night before the game. I mean, Mamba mentality, Kobe killer instinct never would have done that. But like, that wasn't a real. The flu game is one of the things you hear about all the time. The myth of Michael Jordan. That wasn't a real thing. Like, dude, the deleted tapes when baby Shaq kicked his ass and they beat him. Michael Jordan never goes to 7 because he'd prefer to lose in 6, right? And they lose. I didn't know that was a thing for the longest time because they deleted the tapes, because all I heard is they would have won 8 in a row if Michael Jordan never retired. He had the double nickel, 55, he's back, I'm back. But he wasn't so back, right? Because then they end up losing. So, but like you give him a pass for that because for whatever reasons, I know that was just a random thing I brought up, but I do think, under this microscope that LeBron James has been under since he's 15, like it makes us view his career much differently, and we view it against Michael Jordan. So no matter, even in 2016, you have people that get on and face the world on ESPN who are able to knock this guy for one of the most unbelievable individual accomplishments in a team game coming back from that. But ever at 2012, it's like, even when he went to Miami and won, it was like, yeah, but like, it doesn't really matter. Even though he won back-to-back finals MVPs, the only other guy who did that at the time was Jordan. Like, I don't know. I think that aura of Michael Jordan, it's almost like passed on to Kobe, because all you freaks like just switched fan bases when Kobe was around, and like you just like accepted that Kobe can miss the play or cannot win a playoff series for 3 years in his prime, and we could seriously talk about him as the second greatest player of all time. And the fact that you said Tim Duncan was 3, the guy was Carlos Boozer with a better hairline, 19-9. Tim Duncan. If you need someone to give you 19 points in clutch time, call up Tim Duncan. If you need someone to give you 40. Well, Duncan will give you 19 and hope that 4 other All-Stars will carry the flame, and then they'll maybe get there all combined. All right, so
I mean, I'll say about Duncan, he's 4th, not 3rd, but he is on my Mount Rushmore.
Who's 3rd?
I've got Kareem at 3, actually.
All right, cool.
And the reason, I'll tell you in a minute why I have those guys there. But a Tim Duncan, look, again, I look at some of the things that I really measure or respect are very difficult rings. And I think like Kobe winning back-to-back without a top 75 player, and people will quibble with, oh, Powell could have been or should have been top 70, fringe top 75, like certainly not top 50 or 60 all time. And for him to win back-to-back with that guy, the only other player in league history that's won, actually there's 2 that have won more than one ring without a top 75 all-time player. Steph Curry did one, 2. And then Tim Duncan has won, I believe Tim Duncan won 3 and no one's done it back-to-back other than Kobe. But Duncan actually had relatively, when you look at all the dynastic players, like the top 10 all-time players, the Larry Birds, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, the Magic Johnsons, even the Michael Jordans, I think Kobe and Duncan actually had the least help of, other than Hakeem, which is why Hakeem's so high up on my list too. Those 3 dudes have like the most challenging rings in my estimation, because Hakeem had even less supporting cast than Duncan or Kobe, and Kobe and Duncan had crazy stacked competition. But I am interested, Connor, to hear. I want to hear about you don't have to give, I don't want to put you on the spot to give me your top 10 if you don't want to. If you have them, you can. But otherwise, let me hear your top 5.
So, but the cherry picking is insane to say Kobe and no help in the same sentence. The guy won 2 rings as the best player on his team. There's no way around that. Even if you thought he was 1A and 1B, like
I do think he's one, because here's the reason why. You alluded to it. It is 1.5 point per game difference that Shaq and Kobe had for 4 finals runs in the playoff runs, like 96 games or something like that total. So like 100 games, Shaq scored roughly like a point more. But in those runs, though, Kobe was all NBA defense every year. He was the best defender on the team. He was leading the playoffs, not just the Lakers. He was leading the playoffs in fourth quarter scoring and clutch scoring. And he was the lead facilitator, ball handler. He led the team in assists all those times. So if you factor in total points produced on those playoff runs, Kobe is above Shaq because of his but because of his responsibilities in getting other players involved and getting them the ball. And again, Shaq was not good in clutch time because the guy couldn't shoot a free throw to save his life. So he just got hacked every time they threw the ball into him in clutch. So Kobe was the one that had to get those over the hump.
Yeah.
So like saying that he's one or one, like it does make a big difference. I think Kobe was the most important player on those in the last 2 of 3 rings that he won with Shaquille O'Neal.
Why does no one else think that, dude? I can't even
I know it's crazy.
It's
that no one else thinks that. Everybody else.
And then Tim Duncan, I mean, the guy came into the league with an MVP candidate running mate in David Robinson. Then he left the league with a fringe MVP, Defensive Player of the Year in Kawhi Leonard. All that was in between was 15 years of all-star, all-star, all-star. I mean, again, 19-9 is what Tim Duncan was good for. And I love Tim Duncan. If you see this Wake Forest, I'm a fan. But unlike you, I'm able to put my bias to the side, right? I'm a big Tim Duncan fan, but I also have eyes. If you haven't seen these beautiful baby blues, and I call it like I see it despite what I would wish. But my top 5, again, this might invalidate everything I've said. Not that anything was extremely valid, but it's LeBron and Jordan.
Okay.
And then it's such a long cliff. And I like debating LeBron and Jordan because it's the ultimate conversation, right? You had one guy who came in, did what he did, and left. And the aura, the myth of Michael Jordan that we grew up hearing all these fake stories that now it's confirmed that it's fake, but it's like we still give him credit for it anyway. But LeBron James, the guy who did it for longer, the guy who had all the expectations and wasn't the number 3 overall pick average. People say, well, the rules were different back then. Well, he averaged like 13 a game as a freshman. So in the ACC, I don't think he would have lasted in the NBA at that time. So, I mean, even if the rules were different, it's the ultimate conversation. I love LeBron versus Jordan. 3 through 9, it's like, I think I'm open to hearing so many different things as long as Bill Russell's name doesn't show up. I probably have it something like Kareem, Magic, Hakeem, Wilt, Bird. And then am I missing any of the big dog? Then I'm fine. The Shaq, Kobe, Duncan, I kind of have it in clusters. I think the 1A, 1B, however you want to swing it. If you don't have LeBron in your top 2, you invalidate the rest of your list. And then I think my next cluster or block is like Kareem, Hakeem, Wilt, Magic, Bird. And then I think, again, I'm fine. Honestly, I hate to tip the cap to you. You know what you're talking about, right? And I do like a lot of the points you make about Kobe. Because I maybe like the way you viewed LeBron, I've kind of viewed Kobe in a negative sense given my LeBron fandom. And that's a debate we were having in 2008 at the lunch table. LeBron, Kobe was long before LeBron Jordan. Obviously, we stuffed him in a locker and moved up to LeBron Jordan. But I'm kind of okay hearing any of those 3 guys. But I think that's like my next block, if that makes it. My next tier would be those 3 guys after Kareem, Hakeem, who I believe is the most underrated player of all time. MVP, Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year in 1 year. I mean, as you mentioned, he's top 3 on offense. He's top 3 on defense. And he's underrated, I believe. And if you think Bill Russell is better at basketball than that guy, again, we're watching 2 different sports. But then, so I would have those, whatever that is, 5 guys. And then my third tier, I would have Kobe, Duncan, Shaq, who I don't really... I have a hard time making a real list out of those guys. So that doesn't answer your question. I don't even want to hear what yours is because, I mean, it's probably outrageous. And the fact, you want to know when, since we're just chatting, you want me to tell you when I had to throw this all out the window? In 2019, when I was watching Kevin Durant play basketball at such a high level, and that was KD's peak, in my opinion, running through those playoffs, dropping 50 and 40 in back-to-back games versus the Clippers. I was like, I don't know if I've ever, I mean, LeBron is such a different player, but I'm like, you're telling me that because of accolades and championships, you're telling me I can't say this guy is like a top 12 player of all time? What are we watching? The guy's 7 foot on 50, 40, 90, dropping 40 and giving you an 8 and 6 too, and playing great versatile defense. This guy's one of the best I've ever seen. I know I'm not allowed to say that he's better than Bill Russell due to, whatever, but he's unbelievable. And even Curry, at that time, or I don't even want to get into Curry, but because Curry being good helps, my overall narrative here. But when I was watching Kevin Durant it was during that finals. And again, if he doesn't get hurt, I believe he wins 3 in a row, 3 straight finals MVPs.
For sure.
But I remember being like, all I did was debate the top 10. I had it like fully, like, that's all I liked to debate. And after that, I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I like to debate LeBron versus Jordan. I'm not going to fight you that Wilt was better than Kareem or Magic is the third. I don't really have much of I don't much to combat against that. But what I do know is the cats that are playing today do things on the basketball court that would get them arrested for witchcraft. 20 years ago. If you see Kevin Durant at 7 foot pulling up from 30, it's like, this guy would have averaged 70 in the 80s, and it's like, it's okay to admit that. As I mentioned, in football, we don't like to compare. We like to build up everyone. We like to talk about how great the 80s were, how great the 90s were, how great the 2000s were, even when the cornerbacks were wearing big pads and they looked a little more similar to me as they do these days. We don't like to do that because we like to lift everyone up. In basketball, we have to say the 70s was better than the early 2000s. We have to do all this eras talk. I don't really like doing that. So again, I have to defend my glorious King LeBron and bring you guys back to reality here, because again, obviously we're watching the highest level of basketball, and that's something that's ever changing. And 10 years from now, we'll say LeBron played against Twitch streamers and who knows what else, whatever you want to call Michael Porter Jr. So again, I have a tough time with my top 10. Those are kind of the tiers I see it. But if you don't have LeBron in your top 2, it's invalid. So let me hear your top 5, top 10, whatever you want to give me. Have you changed your mind in the last all this?
No, come on now. We're never, I don't think, I love the conversation because we're probably never going to change each other's mind. No
one's ever changed their mind in this debate. It's never happened once. So it's maybe 100%. A little pointless.
So we'll make good points. Maybe we'll take some of those points with us moving forward, but ultimately we're never gonna change our minds. I did a video about a year ago, my top 10 all time, and it was like about a 30-minute video, my justifications of why I have them. I really do like two-way players, elite two-way, whole career timeline, plays a great offense and defense. So yeah, I made this video. It's about 30 minutes. It describes my top 10, why I have them ranked in that order. And I basically really value two-way players. So guys that were elite on offense and defense for a long span of time. So and secondarily, won very challenging rings. So those are like my 2 primary criteria. So look, the top 4 guys on my list, which is, I mentioned before, Jordan, Kobe, Kareem, and Duncan. There are 3 guys in NBA history, Connor, that have double-digit All-NBA team selections and double-digit All-NBA defensive selections. Only 3 guys.
You're telling me Kobe Bryant's in that conversation? That invalidates the list. What's next? Michael Jordan had a Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not buying either of that.
So yeah, so that's those are my Mount Rushmore guys, because full total package, offense, defense, winners. Then I throw in Hakeem. You also favor Hakeem a lot, so I think very highly of him. Then I throw Bird and Magic in next. And then, despite the fact I know you can make a case and you hate him, I'm going to go with Bill Russell, the greatest defender ever, arguably, 11-time champion in 13 years. He's got to be on the top 10. Then after that, I go with Wilt and LeBron, the 2 elite, stat producers that weren't, let's say, they were challenged on the winning front somewhat. Like Wilt 2 and 4 in the finals, LeBron 4 and 6 in the finals. So they're the guys that I kind of have at the back end.
Yeah.
But you raised an interesting point though when you're talking about Kevin Durant. So I want to circle back on that.
Yeah.
Because you said he's maybe one of the best players you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he can't go in the list or in a certain place because he hasn't achieved certain resume points.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good point, Connor, and it's fair. I have to give it to you because I think the all-time conversation really is about accomplishments and resume points, maybe even more so than eye test.
Yeah.
When I think about Nikola Jokic is probably one of the 2, Jordan, to me, I only saw Jordan in the last 3-peat, and I think the Kobe peak I saw is actually better than Jordan in the 3-peat, the second 3-peat.
I
Yeah,
think
I
you
think
glitched
that.
again. It just
I
came through you saying something about Kobe's better than Jordan. We might have to restart from the top here. What did you just tell me?
So in terms of what, because I didn't see Jordan in the 80s or the first three-peat, where
Okay,
to
yeah,
me,
yeah.
that's the best Jordan, that's the best basketball player ever, which I know that guy exists. So
Yeah,
I know he is the GOAT to me. But in
sure.
terms of what my own two eyes saw, like
Yeah,
I think Kobe in his peak is better than Jordan at the end of his peak
yeah.
in 96, 97, 98. So like Nikola Jokic to me might very well be like the second or top two best players I've ever actually personally watched, but
Hmm.
I will not be able, I will be limited in how far I'm able to uplift him because he, quite frankly, like he just hasn't achieved enough. His resume points aren't filled out enough. So
Yeah,
I think you raise a good point. And maybe there's some of that crossover going on in the LeBron conversation with old
100%.
heads that study the eras. And like you just see this guy who's 6'8", 250, and can do all these things. And you're like, well, was anyone actually the tangible product on the floor this good? And maybe that's kind of why you put him as high as you do.
Yeah, well, first of all, you were saying like the second three-peat run, you knew he was the GOAT, but you weren't really watching it. We call that Schrodinger's GOAT, right? Because you're seeing in game 6 in 96, he goes 5 of 19, but they win by 15 because they were the best team, like they were the best team ever constructed. This guy 5 of 19 in the closeout game, and they still win by 15 because of how good his team was, because Scottie Pippen, who was top 3 defensive player of the year, top 3 MVP, first team All-NBA, first team All-Defense, the year that Jordan was batting 190 in AA. I mean, who knows? I mean, I think my cousin did that, and he didn't even freaking post on Instagram about it. It's not really an accomplishment. So that's the Jordan, but you're like, but he's supposed to be the GOAT, but he's not leading the team. I mean, Pippen leads in rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, but all right, we could just call him the GOAT, I guess. The flu game. Wow, that was awesome. Karl Malone, the biggest joker of all time. That's who he be. And John Stockton, speaking of my cousin, I think John Stockton might be my long lost uncle. The guy's a bum. Let's be honest with it. So what was that? What were we talking about before that? Oh, so I think there is part of that because, again, actually last week in preparation for our duel, which I believe will come out in a couple weeks, I watched the second half of the 2013 finals game 6, because that's why I keep mentioning that Dwayne Wade and Bosh were playing, because it is fascinating. Any way you want to split it. I understand he went to the Heat, this great team, the super team, not 3, not 4, not 5, which that was an odd thing for him to do. I will admit that. But Dwayne Wade was not Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh was not Chris Bosh. That's not my opinion. That just is what the TV was showing me. They weren't on the court. So, but I did also watch a little bit from 1997, and I didn't like what I was watching. It's a completely different sport. And I think basketball has changed more than any sport. I keep mentioning football. Football's changed a lot too. You look at what a receiver, a corner, you look at what an O-lineman used to be, fat slobs. Dude, some of my best friends play O-line in the NFL. They have like 6-packs. They're like 6'5", 315 and run like a 4. They're the biggest freaks ever. And we spoke a little bit a couple weeks ago about the sport science, the stuff that goes into it. In basketball, even more so, because when Steph Curry ruined our glorious game and started just being like, all right, we could just shoot every time. Now every player, even these 4s who are pushing 7 foot, you need to be able to put the ball on the ground. You need to be able to shoot, at least kind of be like a competent shooter, or else at the end of these games in the post, even like we're seeing with the Donovan Mitchell right now, it's fascinating. The guy's like a high 20-point scorer for the last however many years, but like they kind of need you to be a point guard in the clutch. And it's like, if you can't do that, you almost not, like a shooting guard doesn't exist. People talk about positionless basketball. Like now even shooting guards don't exist. It's like we took away traditional 4 and 5s. Now we have like ball carrier wings, and preferably 3-and-D wings who don't need the ball and like the ball to be able to create. They could do a bunch of other things. And then you have like, maybe you get a big man in there. So it's fascinating to watch in real time the sport change, because even when I started watching in the mid-late 2000s, it was just a very different game. Even into the 2010s, it was a very different. The games we're talking about, those Celtics Lakers, it's like 69 to 65 with like a couple minutes left in the game. It's just like not even close to what we're watching today. And I think there's a million different reasons for it. There's this new foul baiting, which is a league problem. It's not a Harden. It's not an SGA. It's not a Chris Paul problem. It's a league problem that they call this nonsense. They're allowing it to happen. If I know it also, but you watch Jordan, I was mentioning watching these games from the late 90s. I never saw Jordan go into contact. You go strong to the hole. A foul is like the worst possible scenario. You're going up strong, and then maybe you get clotheslined because no one knew how to play defense back then. But like at some point, Jim Harden was like, oh shit, I could just like lean into someone and go to the line for two. I'm just going to do this. And it's been going on for nearly a decade, and no one's put a stop to it. That's why, again, the NBA, I have a lot of problems with. But again, the talent of these guys, not just in terms of their basketball ability, but the fact that, again, Kevin Durant is nearly 7 foot tall. We're talking about Anthony Davis, a guy who can put the ball on the floor, a guy who can have a playoff series where he shoots like 42% from three on top of being an all-everything defender. Like, I think we're just seeing these freakazoids. And again, Wemby's a one of one. The guy's hitting half-court shots at 7'5". It reminds everyone of something. It's not something we've never seen before, because every kid growing up on 2K would make like a 7'7" creative player point guard. That's what it looks like, okay? And even we mentioned Jokic, what he does. How about Giannis? The run he had, again, it was brief. I think he's still kind of that player. He's just been hurt, so who knows? It's hard to really evaluate his career. Dude, the guy was putting up 50-point triple-doubles in the finals. Like, that's another 7-foot guy, and I'm not saying the shot's all there, but like that guy coming down in transition, it was a completely different game 30 years ago. So if we want to, I mean, Tim Duncan's the big fundamental. He couldn't really dribble. Like, if we call him the big fundamental because he hit a couple elbow J's, like that would not be the big fundamental today. So if Tim Duncan was born 20 years later, yeah, he probably would have developed a shot. Yeah, he probably would have been able to put the ball on the ground. Like, but he wasn't that. So it's hard. It's impossible to compare these guys. People will talk all the time like, well, Jordan would be able to shoot, again, the mental gymnastics you guys do, because he shot 32. He hit 5 threes when they moved the 3-point line in to help him. He hit 5 threes and he's going like this. It's like, all right, dude, like, I mean, it's all about you. How about we get back on defense for once? Actually, no, you have 2 of the top 5 defenders in the league. You don't need to get back on defense. But people will say that if Michael Jordan was born years later, he would have a 3. And if my aunt had wheels, she would be a bicycle. So what are we talking about? He would, well, his mentality, he would have practiced threes. How far are we getting from reality when we have conversations like this? That's why I don't like doing all these comparisons to wrap up this long-winded thing. Because how am I supposed to say Bill Russell, a guy who was averaging 15 points in a game, where at a time where guys were averaging 50, I'm supposed to say, and there were 9 teams in the league, so that automatically cuts his rings in thirds. And like, we're talking about all the Robert Horry. That's what these LeBron guys bring up, Robert Horry. All the 9, 8, 7 rings, they were all part of the same team. They're all Hall of Famers in a time where there were 10 teams in the league. He was averaging 15 when guys were averaging 50. And I'm not saying this to discredit. I know all this stuff, it seems like I'm hating on him. I'm only doing it for the sake of, of debate, because I think it's odd that we just turn a blind eye and we're like, all right, Bill Russell, he averaged 15, but he's like the 3rd best player ever. It's like, no, he's not, man. He's not better than Kevin Durant at basketball. Does he rank above him because we need to do top 10 debates? Like, okay, like, yeah, he's way more credentialed than him, but he isn't better at basketball, and that's the sport they're playing. So that carries a lot of weight for me. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it is. It is a matter somewhat of semantics when we're talking. I think in terms of like Kobe versus LeBron specifically, I really do think Kobe would like beat LeBron in a game of one-on-one basketball. But like, but overall though, yeah. I see your premise. Like and that's why I want to have the conversation, because I think a lot of the conversation or the debate is just not defining the parameters of the conversation.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
Like, and that's why, like, I think a lot of the listicles and the rankings and everything, it's really about like, what do you individually value, or like what means a lot to you? And a lot of people look more about accomplishments than anything else. Like, yeah. We had a conversation about Tom Brady earlier. We would both admit or accept that Brady is by far the best quarterback ever.
100%. Yeah.
And I don't even think it's in the remote conversation of anybody else. Like, nobody else is even close.
Yeah.
But a lot of that, though, is because of his accomplishments and his intangibles and his leadership and stuff. When you look at tactical or like technical skill and like arm talent, Like Tom Brady probably doesn't have, like, he's not like top 20 probably in arm talent, like in terms of like throwing power and so forth, and different and things he could do on the run. Like he had pocket mobility, but practically no like outside the pocket mobility.
100%.
So, but like we still understand because of the accomplishments and everything, like Tom Brady has just distanced himself so much.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's two different kind of conversations going on ultimately with this basketball thing and the GOAT stuff. Like, is it really like, is it accomplishments? Is it tangible on court stuff? Like the debate, honestly, Connor, will go on and on and on. We've been at it for a while today. I think this is a good stopping point for today. However, we didn't really even touch on Jordan and LeBron.
I know.
And you say you love doing that topic.
Yeah.
And that's the one you and I were involved in New York this most recently. So like we'll make the commitment that we'll get on again together and we'll focus just on LeBron and Jordan. What do you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to, because, like, it's funny. We kind of just got right into Kobe. I never debate LeBron versus Kobe because, you usually don't have a willing participant for something so outlandish, right? So I would like to get back in here. We'll definitely do that, and we'll talk Jordan. We'll decide once and for all. LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Who better than you and I to figure it out? So we absolutely have to. But man, this was such a freaking blast, dude. That was a lot of fun. And I appreciate, we didn't even get too crazy. Obviously I did a little bit, but I was trying to push you and I didn't quite get you to lose your cool. But man, thank you so much. This was a freaking blast. There's a reason why you're so successful, dude. You know your stuff. So that was a lot of fun.
Connor Hebbeler, my pleasure. It's Hero Ball Media again.
Yes, sir.
I had a great time as well chatting with you. Like I said, we'll do it again. Maybe we'll do, you're in Jersey, right?
Yes, sir.
I have family in Jersey. So maybe we could do, when we do the Kobe Jordan thing, we'll try to maybe do it in person or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Get this buffer. You got to actually look me in the eyes when you're saying this crazy stuff, not behind this screen.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And you're a big guy. Played Division I college football. I believe you were a tight end, correct?
Yes, sir. A little bit of a fullback, like we call it a fullback. I was just like a blocking tight end. I would come into the game, run full speed into someone who was much bigger than me, and then come out. So not much glory, not many catches, but a lot of fun.
I love it. And again, I love the conversation. Thank you so much. We'll connect. We'll do this. We'll keep a conversation. I'd love to talk to you moving forward on other topics as well. We can do some football as well down the line. And until then, Connor, have a great, I know you've got a little project coming up that's going to take you out of town for a little bit. We won't mention it yet, but
you gotta be quiet.
We can talk later. Next time we connect,
yes,
we can talk about it. Safe travels, and have a great, good luck with that opportunity. And again, thank you so much for taking the time and sitting down here with an old head. And thank you guys so much for taking time to watch this video. Please do make sure that you are subscribed with notifications turned on here. And many thanks to our guest today, Connor Hebbeler of Hero Ball Media. Make sure you get out and check out his videos as well. Like, subscribe, and comment there too.